We were lied to by Pfizer. We were lied to by the government. We were lied to by the Biden administration. We were lied to. I don't like being lied to. I don't know about you. And it makes me not believe these people. I think that the vast majority of people who are in the just asking questions business have an answer that they want to suggest, but they know there's no evidence for it. So instead, they hide behind just asking questions. In other words, they're completely full of shit. But saying that the evidence that is presented to you is now of no consequence whatsoever, that no evidence provided is sufficient because the source cannot be trusted, that they are lying to you, that they're always lying to you, always, and that no counter evidence is necessary to support your new thesis because, again, they're lying to you and they've hidden all the evidence. This is nasty and horrific. And again, the way that the Pfizer lady justified all of this is she said, well, you know, there's certain studies that say we may have saved 20 million lives. Okay, well, let's say that that's true. You also lied to the public about this stuff in order to get them to do a thing you wanted them to do.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining. Just to be clear and honest, that's Ben Shapiro, kind of a back and forth between what he said after the COVID lockdown. You know, he said he was lied to by government. He was lied to by Pfizer. And then a few of the clips were him just being upset at people just asking questions. I just wanted to intro with that clip because I think right now, outside of Ben or whatever, there's really two sides of this conservative media issue around Charlie Kirk right now. Not to oversimplify it, but you have your Candace Owens who are essentially trying to out-question the FBI and find her own evidence and own theories. Millions of people love it. And a lot of people are upset that she's asking so many questions. They say, just let Charlie Kirk grieve and rest, or his family grieve and let him rest. And then you have your, you know, I would say Seth Dillon's side where he's upset that people are asking questions and he's annoyed that people around Charlie Kirk, like his spokesperson who came out with the miracle bullet story about how the bullet basically didn't have an exit wound and it's a miracle, in his own words. You know, they're saying stop asking questions, and then there's Candace who is asking questions. So I'm going to go over a lot of stuff today, but the premise of today's video is, are there too many questions and too many conspiracy theories, or not enough? And I'll tell you my opinion as well. Thank you guys for being here. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if it sounds good. Give me a thumbs up if it looks good for the algorithm. Dream Rare podcast starts now. And I've been trying to go live for like an hour, hour and a half, and it's been glitching. So I'm grateful to be here. And to be honest, I'm surprised. I've tried like 15 times. So if I seem a little like, wait, what? That's why. I've done this like 15 times and it hasn't worked until now. So Dream Rare podcast starts now. Thanks for being here. Let's start the show.
It's the Dream Rare podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on Facebook, YouTube, and hopefully Rumble? I'm grateful that this is working. It's taken me a long time, but we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, a lot of different angles, and just what people are saying. But I want to start with this clip who I got to give credit to Chris Menahan. He found this on Twitter. It's from News Nation. So obviously it's a News Nation clip. Chris found it and posted it on Twitter. And it's probably the most outlandish, I'm not going to say the most outlandish thing because that's kind of an exaggeration, but it's one of the most ridiculous things I've seen all week. It's a man with the last name Rothschild as a disinformation expert saying that pretty much every conspiracy theory is anti-Semitic. If you don't believe me, here's the clip, and, you know, stop thinking for yourself, folks. It's time to let this Mr. Disinformation expert Rothschild think for you, apparently.
Disinformation expert Mike Rothschild and former FBI and CIA Special Agent Tracy Walder. Great to have you both here. Mike, how do these spread? And by the way, why are we seeing so many anti-Semitic conspiracy theories right now?
So you have a news host in a suit asking a Rothschild, why are we seeing so many anti-Semitic conspiracy theories? And if you thought that clip was ridiculous and borderline parody, his answer is even crazier. He says every conspiracy theory essentially roots from anti-Semitism.
Well, as I wrote about in one of my books, all conspiracy theories essentially have a hint of anti-Semitism, and all anti-Semitism is based around conspiracy theories.
Hold on. What was that quote? I got to play it again. All conspiracy theories have a hint of anti-Semitism. All of them? Every conspiracy theory ever. Everyone. Every conspiracy theorist online, all of them, they all have a hint of anti-Semitism from this Rothschild. That's one of the most ridiculous quotes I've ever heard in my life. I don't know if I'd call it ridiculous comical, you could say, if it's funny to you, but like, is this guy for real? Here's that quote again, and really listen, because it's one of the most insane things I've heard.
Well, as I wrote about in one of my books, all conspiracy theories essentially have a hint of anti-Semitism, and all anti-Semitism is based around conspiracy theories. It's very natural for an unexpected traumatic event like Charlie Kirk's murder, caught on camera in front of hundreds of people, instantly broadcast around the world.
So News Nation thinks they're going to post a picture of Candace Owens on the news with a guy named Rothschild who looks like that. No offense, but just the reality of it. Being like, yeah, all conspiracy theories have a hint of anti-Semitism. This is why the Candace Owens side is kind of growing and why she has millions of viewers. It's like, is there, not to act like I'm holier than thou or anything, but are there things I disagree with Candace on? Of course. Am I Candace Owens? No. Do I think everything she does is what I would do? Of course it isn't, or else I'd do it. I do what I do. She does what she does. But if you ever want to know why the side of Candace Owens is so massive and the side of Mr. Rothschild is probably, his audience is probably nowhere near the size of hers, like, it's not that hard to figure out. So I don't understand. I don't understand that side of the equation. Like, do they really think they're going to put a guy who looks like that with the last name Rothschild as a disinformation expert that no one's ever heard before, trying to have a gotcha moment about Candace Owens by saying essentially every conspiracy theory has a hint of anti-Semitism? Like, is there anybody who watches this and it's like, you know what? Candace has lost a fan and Mr. Rothschild has gained a fan. Is he going to stream and have millions of views on his videos now after this? I'm going to play the last two clips of this, but I had to go in on this because it's just one of the most ridiculous things I've seen all week, which is saying something because I've seen a lot of ridiculous stuff this week.
To send people spinning off into wild theories of what happened, why it happened, who did it. We had no idea for almost 2 days. That is a petri dish where conspiracism and paranoia are going to grow. And everyone is going to latch onto a different theory based on whatever your own personal beliefs are. Whatever you wanted the shooting to be, for that, it was you. And it spreads instantly on social media.
I mean, to be fair, I don't 100% disagree with what he's saying there. He's saying everybody's kind of seeing their bias in the shooting. I think that's pretty true, to be honest. There you go, Mr. Rothschild. You picked up a fan. I'm going to, you're my disinformation expert now. I'm just kidding. I'm not a fan, but he's not wrong about that. Everybody with a bias, like, people are like, wrap it up. We already have the motive. And then other people are like, I don't trust it. There is definitely some bias there, but let's watch the last part of this clip.
By the way, Mike, should we trust you? Aren't you a Rothschild? Aren't you behind everything?
I am a Rothschild. I'm not one of the Rothschilds. If I were, I would be living on my yacht and counting my paintings.
Okay, great. Because I thought that was a room on your yacht. I was mistaken. Okay, Tracy, let me go to you. There is a...
I mean, I'm not going to lie. This guy seems like a nice guy. He doesn't seem like a mean guy or anything. He seems a little funny, but the hubris to be like, I'm Mr. Rothschild, the disinformation expert, and let me tell you why every conspiracy theory has a hint of anti-Semitism in it. It reminds me of when the ADL posted out when Trump was talking about globalists and warmongers in his first term. There was this Anti-Defamation League tweet where they were basically saying, Trump talking about casting out communists and expelling globalists and warmongers. This has a hint of anti-Semitism in it. And we really don't like this anti-Semitic rhetoric from Donald Trump. And he didn't mention Israel, Jewish, or Judaism one time in that speech. He literally just talked about communists, globalists, and warmongers. But somehow the Anti-Defamation League sees themselves in that. And they're like, whoa, cool up the anti-Semitism, buddy. And Trump's like, what? I'm talking about communists. They're like, yeah, we know. He's like, and globalists. They're like, yeah, we just don't, So I want to just hear this quote one more time before I move on in this thing, because this is probably one of the best quotes of the year. This should be on posters around the world. Let's hear it.
Well, as I wrote about in one of my books, all conspiracy theories essentially have a hint of anti-Semitism, and all anti-Semitism is based around conspiracy theories.
So all conspiracy theories have a hint of anti-Semitism, all of them. They're all just anti-Semitic. And nothing in that realm is real. It's all based on conspiracy theories. Who is this expert again? We got to see.
Disinformation expert Mike Rothschild and former FBI and CIA Special Agent Tracy Walder. Great to have you both here. Mike,
So the news is bringing on a former CIA and FBI person and a disinformation expert that nobody's ever heard with the last name Rothschild. This could be a parody skit. Like if SNL was actually funny and edgy, this could be an SNL skit. I honestly don't. If you showed me that in a different reality and we're like, is this real? Or it's like, no, this has to be fake. There's no way they would just air this like this was some sort of thing that anyone would believe. And I guarantee you that nobody saw this on News Nation besides probably Chris Menahan and a few others. And now it's going to be seen by millions of people on Twitter because everybody's going to be like, no, this is not believable. So congratulations, News Nation, the most ridiculous clip I've seen of the of the week. And of course, to all of my followers and supporters, listen to Rothschild, disinformation expert, and stop being such an anti-Semitic hater or whatever. And if you guys don't know who the Rothschild family is, I'm not trying to start a conspiracy theory or anything, but they're a famous banking family that you're not allowed to say has any money and power, even though history says they had money. Like it would almost be disrespectful to say that Rothschilds have no money and power. It would be like rude. It would be like saying Michael Jackson wasn't a good singer. Michael Jordan never won a championship. It doesn't make any sense. That's the weird thing about, what they say about anti-Semitism. It's like you obviously can't criticize Israel, but you also almost can't compliment. Like it's like they don't want to compliment, they don't want to be noticed, but also they want attention, but they don't want attention. It's this weird back and forth thing where I'm not, I don't dislike anybody or like as far as like historical things about the Rothschilds, like there's a debate to be had, but what I'm trying to say is I don't even think it's debatable that they were, at least at one point, and some speculate that they still are, a very famous and powerful banking family. Like are we really not supposed to say that they have any power? In fact, they have so much power that the state of Israel was essentially given to them in the Balfour Declaration by Lord Balfour, and that was to say that the Rothschilds have no power. They literally were handed Israel. They were like the head family essentially that was started the whole Zionist movement. Theodore Herzl created the idea of Zionism, but the actual Zionist movement for the Jewish people to go back into the land of Israel or Palestine, I guess depending how you see it, was facilitated, it seems like, by the Rothschilds. Unless I'm reading the Balfour Declaration wrong or saying it wrong. But of course, you're not, I'm sure disinformation expert Rothschild would say that I just committed like an anti-Semitic hate speech event or something. It's like I can't even talk about history. But anyway, I had to share that clip because it was so ridiculous. And there's a lot of things I want to talk about in this stream. And I've kind of gone back and forth because so much has happened over the last 24 hours or so. But I'm just going to go through a few things real quick and just show like two different kind of mindsets on the right. And you could let me know in the comments which one you're feeling, because I've talked to some people who love what Candace is doing. I've talked to some people who think she's doing too much. And then, my comments are filled with people. Most people are asking questions, and some people are like, just let Charlie Kirk rest and stop making videos and posts about it. We don't want to talk about it anymore. They think it's been solved. So I'll just show you like the two different sides. And once again, I'm not trying to oversimplify this because there are different people out there besides Seth Dillon and Candace Owens, but I do think that they embody kind of the average, struggle that people are having around this Charlie Kirk assassination and the lack of answers, perhaps in the wake of it. So Candace Owens tweeted, right about now, I think that whoever made the decision to assassinate Charlie Kirk is recognizing that it was a terrible mistake. They thought they were going to have a grassy knoll moment to it. Instead, they awakened the entire world. So Candace is like, she's treating this like a JFK situation. And, I'll just give you my opinion. Sometimes I try to wait till the end to give my opinion and my perspective and just do a good journalistic job. Not that I'm not doing one, but I'll just give my opinion now. To me, this is more like a JFK situation than it is a Ukrainian refugee who was stabbed in the neck on the the train. Like, there's not a lot of questions with that because the stabbing was on footage. So there's really not that much to be questioned. There's a video footage of the guy stabbing. His rap sheet is enormous. It seems pretty clear that he did it, and everybody knows that. To me, this is more like a JFK situation because Charlie Kirk was essentially a very similar to JFK figure. I'm not saying in policy or anything, but Charlie Kirk probably would have been a president one day he would have been one of the highest profile politicians. He was already higher profile than most politicians, and outside of Trump and perhaps a few others, he was not only the most famous, but he was probably the most influential. He did the events that all the Republicans spoke at. He hosted Trump. He is, Charlie Kirk was essentially a de facto member of the Trump administration, like covertly or overtly, depending how you look at it. Like, he was so tight with the Trump administration, except he had perhaps more power than even certain people in the cabinet, because he was controlling the trajectory of the youth and actually organizing. So Charlie Kirk wasn't just a nobody. Not to say that if you're a nobody, your life doesn't matter, but like, the motives around Charlie Kirk's killing could be random or it could not be, right? But he's more like a JFK situation. And I say that before I read Seth Dillon's situation, because the video footage caught the killer of the guy who killed the Ukrainian woman on a train. That's on video. There is not a single video footage of the shooter shooting, right? First of all, I did a video a couple weeks ago, or I'm sorry, maybe like 5-6 days ago. I don't know. Time's flying. But I said, it doesn't make sense to me, as somebody who understands live events, who's performed at live events, and who understands how there were apparently around 3,000 people there. It was easily in the thousands. There were dozens of cameras probably by Turning Point USA. There were thousands of cameras probably rolling just among people watching. I told people there's almost no chance that nobody got the footage of the shooter. I don't believe that. I looked at all the angles they were filming at. It wasn't that far away as far as like in the background. I showed clips of Charlie walking in, and anybody filming from the one angle was going to have that roof. And there were people in the back that were basically overflow that couldn't sit in front of Charlie Kirk that I believe were probably filming at that angle. So I already said there's almost no chance that nobody caught the video footage of the shooter. I asked AI, not that AI is the be all end all, because it makes mistakes, but I asked AI, I said, given all this information, I computed it all in. I said, what are the chances that not a single video footage got the Charlie Kirk shooter in the act? And it said essentially zero. It said as close to zero as you could possibly get, given all the cameras. They said there were 3,000 people there. So there's no chance that nobody caught it on video. And if the Ukrainian girl, obviously she got stabbed and she died, but the video footage is really what solidified it. Like, of course, you have that guy was probably not that hard to catch because he was covered in blood, had a knife, etc. But as far as the shooter of Charlie, like, it's not really that cut and dry, because there's no video footage of the shooter. And it's not like this guy who stabbed the girl, like maybe he has a knife in his hand, there's blood all over him. The cops catch him 5 minutes later. This wasn't really the situation. It was the guy's dad who turned him in. There is no video footage of the shooter. And I would say the chances that the fact that they got this public train, they had the video footage of it, but at a public school with thousands of cameras on top of the cameras they already have, nobody caught the video footage. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So what I'm trying to say, obviously I had a long-winded explanation for that, but I think if they had video footage of the shooter in the act of shooting, it would close a lot of loose ends on this. So I do believe it's like a JFK situation where nobody's saying that he didn't get shot or he didn't die. Obviously, that's true. He did, was murdered. But people around JFK didn't believe it because it was sketchy. The guy said he was a patsy. Then somebody killed him. Like, clearly the JFK situation was bigger. Charlie, we don't know yet, but I'm just not willing to just put it under wraps, even if you disagree with what Candace is saying, and even if you think she's going too far, she's going about it not the right way. To me, that's understandable. But to sit and just say, basically, we got it, stop asking questions, let the family grieve, like, I don't know that I fully agree with that. But let me just read what Seth said, because that's kind of like the competing factions in the Republican Party right now and what they're thinking about it. Seth Dillon said that everyone close to Charlie has to keep taking time away from grieving to address false claims and conspiracies is disgraceful. To the ghouls monetizing Charlie's murder, the price of those controversy clicks is your soul. And he said that in response to Andrew Colvett, who is the spokesperson for for Turning Point USA, in which essentially Charlie Kirk's body stopped a bullet that would typically just go through everything, and it was an absolute miracle. Nobody else was killed, his surgeon told TPUSA. So now this is the story that Charlie Kirk got shot by a bullet that most of the time would rip through and have an exit wound, but because Charlie's bone density was so strong it's essentially some sort of miracle that there is no exit wound. And, I'm not an expert on this type of bullet, but it seems like the people that are find it very, very hard to believe, right? I'm not sitting here saying that you don't have to believe it. But I guess, or whatever, you could think what you want. I think my audience is smart enough to have their own brain and their own thoughts. However, I don't think it's the craziest thing to be asking questions right now. Maybe it could be done in a better way by some people, but let's just go through the three things that I think are not open and shut right now. There is no video footage of the shooter shooting. None. That's crazy to me, given how many people were there and were filming from every angle. Isn't believable to me. I don't know what's going on, but I feel like someone has to have video footage of that roof. Where's the video footage to that roof? There's thousands of people at the events, thousands of cameras rolling from every angle, including the back, pointing that way. Someone had to catch that angle. I believe that. Secondly, the text that they revealed to me, and I would say 80 to 90% of my audience, even on Facebook, people don't believe those texts the way they were written. That I left my gun there with the towel. Like it's basically like, seems to me, I'm not saying this is the truth, but it could be real. It's absolutely possible that it could be real. But if you're asking my unprofessional opinion, to me, it just sounds like somebody just framing text messages in the exact way. Like, here's what I did. I did this, then I changed, then I dropped the gun here, and the gun had a towel, and the towel had the DNA evidence on it. I found an article recently. I think it's by the New York Post. Let me find it real quick, because this guy, Edward Dowd, kind of shared it. And this is recent, but let me look real quick. Sorry about the delay. I'm just trying to find it for sure. This is what the headline says. It's one of the craziest ones I've seen. It says, the gun that killed Charlie Kirk is a World War I era rifle that may be untraceable. So they're already trying to say in the press, I don't know if this is true with the feds, but in the press, they're trying to say it might be that this gun is untraceable. So what they have DNA evidence on currently is the towel. And it just so happens that the shooter was just texting, his significant other, like, hey, I dropped the gun with the towel. Like, is that really something someone would put into text? Why would they say that they had a towel with it? I mean, it's possible, but once again, they have no video footage of the shooter. These texts, most people don't believe. I don't believe them. And then you have this bullet theory where now the spokesperson from TPUSA comes out and says it's a miracle. I'm not saying that you have to disagree with any of this stuff, but you can't. This is just my personal opinion. While you can say that Candace or whoever is going too far, you have to be able to explain why, not just act like everything's a conspiracy, because I've seen some pretty dumb conspiracies online. However, how could you expect people to just accept this narrative right now? And why would you be trying to basically act like it's completely solved when it's clearly not completely solved? Like, to me, that doesn't add up. So obviously there's people on both sides that are acting irrational to some, but I personally am just very, very suspicious of anybody that's saying why would you ask questions about this? And the reason I started the video with Ben, I don't follow Ben anymore. I have no idea what he's saying, but I have followed conservative media where there does seem to be two groups. And this was something that is now very connected to Charlie's death in the sense of, like, people are arguing over what Charlie thought about the pro-Israel thing and the everybody's trying to say Charlie was me, Charlie was me, Charlie was me. But really, if you watch the videos of Charlie, he was extraordinarily pro-Israel. However, he was kind of the middle ground in a weird way because he had friends on both sides and he was trying to facilitate the movement, talking to Tucker Carlson, but still keeping his stances. And a lot of people hated that he was doing that. But the reason I say that is because, Seth Dillon is definitely more on the pro-Israel side, and he tends to dislike Tucker Carlson. Before Charlie passed, he was expressing his concerns with Tucker speaking on the stage because, Seth doesn't like Tucker. And obviously he thinks Tucker's going way too far with the Israel stuff. So this is just my point. Not that everybody's exactly the same on all sides. That's not what I'm saying. But I do find that side of the equation, they're not interested in debating Tucker Carlson. Like, Tucker would probably talk to any of them and debate them. They don't want to. They just simply want to act like everything's a conspiracy theory. Everything is too much. And this is coming from the same crowd. Not that Seth Dillon and Ben Shapiro are exactly the same, but because they're not. But when it comes to the Israel stuff, I do tend to see them having almost identical opinions where everybody questioning anything on that side, they tend to attack or say is going too far, online. But here's Ben Shapiro during I'm just going to play this whole clip. This is kind of a before and after compilation of him during the COVID stuff, because I find it to be almost identical in the sense of the same people that were calling everything a conspiracy theory or an anti-vaxxer, they had to swallow their pride 2 years later and admit that they were wrong. But the reason I'm going to play this clip again is because in this clip, Ben Shapiro says that he got lied to by Pfizer and he got lied to by the government. So, Ben is trying to say it's not really my fault, essentially, or, I'm not, it's not that I'm really made huge mistakes. It's just that the Pfizer and the government made massive mistakes. And I was just, saying what they were telling me. So he tried to frame it almost as if how dare Pfizer and how dare the government. But here's my question before I play the clip. If you're the type of person that constantly slanders people for just asking questions, you didn't ask enough questions. And basically your journalism, it was like you just saying what Pfizer and the government were saying. There's a lot of people out there that don't trust the government and they don't trust Pfizer. And the people that don't trust the government and don't trust Pfizer were more correct about the pandemic in many ways than Ben was. And I don't think that's a coincidence. So not everyone who questions Pfizer and the government's correct with everything they're saying, but this tends to be the Ben Shapiro and the Seth Dillon side of the argument. They hate questions. They hate conspiracy theories. They think everybody should just shut up and believe the official narrative now. And I don't know what Seth was saying during the pandemic, but I do think when it comes to the Israel stuff and just in general now, not even on that note, but just with the Charlie situation, I understand that he doesn't want people to be questioning people around Charlie. And that makes sense to me because, they're grieving. At the same time, the spokesperson for Turning Point USA has to understand that people are trying to solve Charlie's mystery or murder mystery. And maybe it's not a mystery to some, but saying it's a miracle bullet or at least a miracle event isn't going to make a lot of people feel that great about it. And I'm not saying you have to agree, but this is my issue with that side of the debate. They just always act like they just don't understand. I don't understand why people are asking questions. I don't understand. It's just so horrific. All these conspiracies. Well, here's Ben Shapiro, who during the pandemic wasn't asking questions. And let's hear his reasoning for it back and forth.
But we now know that we were lied to by everyone. We were lied to by the scientists. We were lied to by Pfizer. We were lied to by the government. We were lied to by the Biden administration. We were lied to. I don't like being lied to. I don't know about you. And it makes me not believe these people. I think that the vast majority of people who are in the just asking questions business have an answer that they want to suggest, but they know there's no evidence for it. So instead, they hide behind just asking questions. In other words, they're completely full of shit. But saying that the evidence that is presented to you is now of no consequence whatsoever, that no evidence provided is sufficient because the source cannot be trusted, that they are lying to you, that they're always lying to you, always, and that no counter evidence is necessary to support your new thesis because, again, they're lying to you and they've hidden all the evidence. This is nasty and horrific. And again, the way that the Pfizer lady justified all of this is she said, well, there are certain studies that say we may have saved 20 million lives. Okay, well, let's say that that's true. You also lied to the public about this stuff in order to get them to do a thing you wanted them to do, which in free democracies is supposed to be bad. You're not supposed, and here's the other thing. If that's really how the vaccines had worked, don't you think that as that became clear, more and more people would have taken them? And we have seen a tremendous amount of vaccine hesitancy, unfortunately, in the Black and Hispanic community. Okay, Black America, only 67% of Black Americans say they definitely will get the vaccine or probably get the vaccine. So the Black community has tremendous vaccine hesitancy. Okay, that is a real problem. According to Tucker, you have to believe Tucker. And if you don't, it's probably because you're part of the conspiracy or the cover-up, because you're owned, because you become the establishment, because you're weak and you can be taken over by nefarious forces. The only man of courage in this routine is apparently the truth seeker Tucker, who asks questions but doesn't actually examine the evidence on these particular issues, because why do you need to know things when you can just ask questions? But we now know that we were lied to by everyone. We were lied to by the scientists. We were lied to by Pfizer. We were lied to by the government. We were lied to by the Biden administration. We were lied to. I don't like being lied to. I don't know about you. And it makes me not believe these people.
So that was just a compilation from all different times. When he was in the jean jacket, it was after all the truth came out about the lockdowns and the vaccine, where Ben said, well, we were lied to. Who would have known? Well, I knew that because I actually do journalism. So my journalism isn't just regurgitating what Pfizer and the government says. I actually did my job and due diligence to ask questions. So during the pandemic, my journalism was more accurate than Ben Shapiro's journalism because I was asking questions and providing actual evidence and for my questions to, paint a picture of, I don't know if I fully believe this, while Ben apparently was just going along with what Pfizer and the government was saying. So he was wrong, I was right. And I was right because I was asking questions. So even though Ben admits that he got lied to by Pfizer and the government, just a few months later, a few years later, when it started becoming like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and other people asking questions about the wars, etc., which in my opinion, regardless of your bias or your beliefs, you have every right to ask questions about these wars. They told us for 10, 20 years we were fighting Al-Qaeda, and now a former Al-Qaeda member leads Syria, and he just landed in Washington, D.C. So, I mean, it's shocking to me that people can't figure out what's going on when it comes to ISIS and Al-Qaeda. We're going to fight Al-Qaeda. We're going to fight Al-Qaeda. We were fighting essentially alongside Al-Qaeda to overthrow the leader of Syria. And once a former member and a former leader of Al-Qaeda became the president of Syria, he got invited to the White House or to Washington, D.C. I don't know if they're inviting him to the White House. To me, like, I don't even want to talk about it, but if you can't figure out who these groups always were and how the narrative was never told the truth to you, like, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's an actual conspiracy that they're just not telling you on the news. And it's pretty obvious now. But in general, when it comes to like war, Tucker, other people ask questions, and Ben, the same person that didn't ask questions during the lockdown, now is mocking people asking questions. I just find the parallels very similar between this narrative, because here's what I'm going to say, right? Because there's a lot of different theories out there on the internet. Some are good, some are not good. Let's just say you're somebody that completely buys the mainstream narrative, right? It was Tyler Robinson. He was a leftist. He was fighting for trans rights or whatever. And, that was him. The text messages were him. The bullet was a miracle, that it didn't hurt anybody else. You believe every single thing they said. Here's my thoughts. Still, why are you trying to wrap it up? Charlie Kirk was not just a random person. Let's just say it was the left winger that they said it was. How do you know he wasn't working for a bigger organization? The right wing pundits on television and the normie right wingers, they always talk about how all these left wing organizations are so bad and they're so evil and they're funding all these protest groups. I'm not saying that somebody was funding this from the left, but if I actually believed what the government was saying about all this, I wouldn't just be like, wrap it up, stop asking questions, it's over, get out of here, stop asking questions. To me, that's really weird. That's really weird, because even if I believed everything that they're saying, I would still be asking the question, was it deeper than that? Was it deeper than that in the sense, was there any organization on the left that wanted Charlie Kirk gone? That was, I'm not saying, once again, I'm not saying that that's the case, but I don't know. I don't believe these lone narratives all the time. Sometimes it's a lone person, but with someone like Charlie Kirk, such an important political figure in America, even if I believed all the things that they were saying, I would still want to know more just to figure out if he was acting alone or not. I don't think he was. I really don't. That doesn't seem believable to me. And maybe they'll get to the bottom of it. Maybe they won't. But the point that I'm making, hopefully it's coming across clear. Don't you think that even if you believed it was everything they said it was, that you'd want to dive deeper to make sure that this guy was just acting alone versus either working with a group of other radicals or perhaps being, groomed by a different group that, that like a left-wing group or something? If you believe that, I don't trust anybody that just wants to completely wrap this up. There's no video footage of the shooter. Video footage of the shooter in the act of shooting would tie up like 70 to 80% of this mystery. It would be like if there was no clear evidence that the guy stabbed the Ukrainian girl. There was no video footage. They never found him necessarily with the knife with blood on him, etc. It would be a lot harder to wrap that case up. But they had video footage. They had him with the, they found all that stuff. This one, they don't have video footage of him, which is even crazier than on a train, because there's videos and cameras and cell phones all over that event from every angle, not just one angle, every angle. Yet they have no proof of the video footage. I want to see proof of the shooter because they don't have it. And I believe, just like I asked AI with all the information, I believe there's a close to 0% chance that that footage doesn't exist. I watched Charlie Kirk walk in. I watched people from the side filming him from behind. And when people were, when his guy, McCoy, or whatever his name was, one of his friends was filming him on the way in, right when Charlie walked in, you could see the roof where they said he got shot very clearly in the background. It was like the most central thing if you were filming from the back angle. And there were hundreds of people standing off to that side filming Charlie from behind or from the side that didn't get into the full event. Someone has to have that footage. They have to. I don't believe that footage doesn't exist of the roof. I want to see it. So should the agents on the case. So should everybody. With that being said, is it, I don't understand the science and the, trajectory of that bullet from that case, but calling it a miracle and just expecting everyone to be like, it's just a miracle that there's no exit wounds. That's also kind of crazy. And then the text messages to me were like the fakest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm not saying they're not real. I just don't believe it. So that's what we're dealing with right now. I want to hear this Tyler Robinson kid speak. I want to see more of the evidence that the FBI comes with, and I hope that they solve the case. But once again, this is my semi-nuanced take, if you want to say that. I understand why some people think some people are doing too much. I understand why people don't want Candace and others to say a lot of stuff. Like I get those angles, and I understand if your take is like, I don't like the way she's doing it, or I think she's not being very accurate, or like all of that is understandable to me. But what is not understandable to me is just saying, wrap it up. It's over. Stop asking questions. That's the best way to fulfill his legacy. Like, is it though? Are you sure? Because Charlie, although he definitely supported the Trump administration and he definitely supported our allies, he didn't seem like somebody that was obsessed with war. In fact, he seemed like the type of Republican that Trump campaigned on, ending the wars, right? I'm not saying Charlie didn't support Trump. He did. He always had Trump's back, no matter what Trump did or what our allies did. But now Pete Hegseth is using his death to recruit for the military and show like a bunch of videos of missiles. It's like Charlie's Kirk is being used by everyone in every single way. It's being used by the government. It's being used by Trump. Trump says if Charlie were alive, I don't think now he'd agree with the hate speech, because Charlie said there was no such thing as hate speech. And Trump said, oh yeah, I don't know if he thinks that now. Well, we don't know what Charlie thinks now because he's dead. But if Trump and his administration is going to use Charlie's death to go after hate speech more because they think Charlie would have changed his mind now that he was shot, like these are all the same way you could say Candace is using his death to do this. So is Pete Hegseth, except he's using it for a war that I don't even know if Charlie supported or not. And Charlie's not alive to tell us his opinion. At least I'm man enough and I'm honest enough to admit that. And this is what, eventually I want to like try to show what Charlie actually said, because Charlie wasn't me. And this is the main point I really want to make with everybody fighting over Charlie's legacy. Charlie wasn't me. Charlie didn't have all my beliefs. Charlie didn't have all my stances. Charlie wasn't exactly the same, and that's okay. But the other people, a lot of the people on other sides, they're trying to be like, oh, Charlie, look at this video of Charlie from 2018. That proves what he thinks. It's like, that's 2018. I thought different things in 2018. In like a month ago, Charlie said he was being harassed and called an anti-Semite and the enemy. That doesn't mean that Charlie was against Israel. There's all this evidence that Charlie was extremely pro-Israel, right? All the evidence is there. But that doesn't mean he's exactly like Mark Levin or Ben Shapiro now, because he's not alive. Like he wasn't like Ben Shapiro. He wasn't like Mark Levin. He wasn't like me. Charlie was Charlie. He was unique. He played both sides to some extent. Some people liked it. Some people didn't. I'm just willing to admit he didn't have all my opinions. He didn't have all my views. And I would never act like he would. But it's the same people that are mad at Candace Owens for doing this and doing that. They're all doing the same thing. If you're going to get mad at Candace for saying stuff, are you going to get mad at Pete Hegseth for using Charlie Kirk's murder to recruit people for a war that we're not even sure if Charlie supported? Are you going to get mad at other leaders who are saying it was this, it was that? Is everyone supposed to not say anything at all about Charlie's legacy and who he was? It just doesn't seem like people are being honest about it. And regardless of, obviously, there's going to be a battle by his close friends and people that worked with him over what he thought and what he didn't think. But is there any room for questions? Like, here's my personal thoughts. I think they lied to us purposely about the COVID lockdowns. I think they lied to us about the vaccine. And unlike Ben Shapiro, who acts shocked at it.
But we now know that we were lied to by everyone. We were lied to by the scientists. We were lied to by Pfizer. We were lied to by the government. We were lied to by the Biden administration. We were lied to. I don't like being lied to.
I don't think that's a coincidence. and I wish it wasn't true. I wish I just trusted everybody, but I knew Pfizer lied. There's proof that they were liars, right? There's court cases from decades ago or years ago that prove that they had to do settlements and stuff. So I never trusted Pfizer. I never trusted the government. I know how the government and Pfizer works. And the reason that we pretend, or some people pretend, I'm not saying I don't believe in it, but the reason the right wing pretends to believe in free market capitalism is because once the government gets involved with businesses, they tend to have a bias. Like if the government owns 50% of a business and people in the government profit off that business, then are they going to tell the truth? Let's just say with Operation Warp Speed, Trump spent a lot of government money to pay a bunch of companies and to buy doses. Let's just say, hypothetically, the government buys 100 million doses of Pfizer vaccine, which happened. They buy a bunch of Moderna and they buy a bunch of Johnson & Johnson, right? But they own part of the Moderna one. Pfizer is Pfizer. There's a lot of political donations from Pfizer, et cetera. Do you think the government has the incentive to be like, you know what? Let's just say they bought a bunch of doses with taxpayer money. The doses aren't exactly as great as they once thought they were. Do you think they'll just sit there and say, you know what? Let's just waste billions of dollars that we just spend and not hand these out? Like they're not going to do that. And they did hand them out. And then they told us 3 years later, well, it wasn't really what we thought it was. I never thought it was that because I actually do research. I don't just believe Pfizer and the government. So, you know, there are ways that they lie. I think they lied to us about wars. I think they lied to us about ISIS and Al-Qaeda. You know, I think that we were fighting alongside Al-Qaeda in Syria. And I don't just think that. There's proof of that. Al-Qaeda was trying to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. America was trying to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, as were our allies. And as soon as Bashar al-Assad was overthrown, a former Al-Qaeda leader became the president of Syria. Now the sanctions were dropped on Syria. Now the Al-Qaeda guy is in America because they invited him here. I don't believe this is random. I believe we were always fighting alongside them, directly or indirectly, as Tulsi Gabbard used to say. I can't imagine what Tulsi's thinking now once she realizes that she's working with, you know, these people. But in general, it's like, it's not that I think that they're good. I think that they're bad. I just think that the United States was not telling us the truth about who they were. I think the United States was directly or indirectly funding these groups. And to be honest, I think the United States might even, or our allies, you know, might even be in some way affiliated with these groups, because just looking at the evidence of it right now and looking at who they've apologized to when they've attacked, etc., it's not really adding up. It feels like they're a boogeyman in the Middle East who is basically there to justify what we want to do and accomplish our goals, like overthrowing the leader of Syria. I don't take any pride in having to say this because it creeps me out. You know what I'm saying? If you want me to be completely honest, it's very creepy that they told us that Al-Qaeda did 9/11, and then we had to go to the East to fight Al-Qaeda. Then decades later, evidence comes out that we're fighting alongside Al-Qaeda. Then evidence comes out that an Al-Qaeda member or a former Al-Qaeda member is the president of Syria. And now there's evidence that he's getting flown to the United States because the United States is happy about it because they always wanted that guy or somebody like that guy in power, not Bashar al-Assad. I wish that weren't the case. This doesn't make me feel good about our country. The fact that all these terrorist groups that they told us we were going to fight, we're either secretly working with or working alongside of, that's really creepy. It's really creepy to know that that's what our taxpayer dollars are funding, but that's the reality, unfortunately, of the situation. So, you know, there's a way to, I guess, if you would want to, condemn certain theories that you think are untrue while not poo-pooing all sorts of just asking questions. Because anybody who doesn't want people to ask questions, you're not being genuine. You could say some people are doing too much and going too far. Explain how, because maybe then I'll agree with you. Maybe then I'll be like, you know what? I don't like that. I don't like that. But, you know, they have the right to question that, and that. But that's not what's happening on the right. There's just a bunch of people that they just think every theory is ridiculous. Like, oh, let's just trust the FBI and Kash Patel. And, you know, they got all this bombshell evidence. I wish they did. They just really don't right now. And maybe that will come. Maybe you could say to be patient to some people, understandable. But I just think it's crazy that there's so many people that are just telling everyone to move on. Even if you believe everything they're saying, why would you want people to move on? I guess you just want the government, the same government that lied to us about the wars, the same government that lied to us about lockdowns and vaccines. Yeah, just let them do it and don't ask them any questions, or don't, question them at all, and they'll just figure it out. Really? Here's the post that went viral recently. And once again, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but from what I've seen in my feed from even people not asking questions, I would say the majority of people that I've seen tend to think that this is strange. This is from Turning Point USA spokesperson. And I understand that it's a difficult time for him. And I get that, he might not want to be saying stuff like this. And to be honest, he didn't have to say this. He didn't have to make this explanation. It might have not even helped. But I respect him for at least saying what he knows or what he was told, because the more context everybody has, then we could try to figure out what's going on. Not that he owes this to everyone, but he decided to say it publicly. And now, because it's public information, everybody has their opinion on it. I'll read the full statement if you haven't seen it. And if you have, I apologize for the repetition, but here it is. Andrew Colvett said, I want to address some of the discussion about the lack of an exit wound with Charlie. I'm usually not interested in delving into most of the online chatter, and I apologize if this is somewhat graphic, but in this case, the fact that there wasn't an exit wound is probably another miracle, and I want people to know. I just spoke with a surgeon who worked on Charlie in the hospital. He said the bullet absolutely should have gone through, which is very normal for a high-powered, high-velocity round. I've seen wounds from this caliber many times, and they always just go through everything. This would have taken a moose or two down, an elk, etc. But it didn't go through. Charlie's body stopped it. I mentioned to his doctor that there were dozens of staff, students, and special guests standing directly behind Charlie and on the other side of the tent. And he replied it was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed. His bone was so healthy and the density was so impressive that he's like the man of steel. It should have gone through and through. It likely would have killed those standing behind him. In the end, the coroner did find the bullet just beneath the skin. Even in death, Charlie managed to save those lives around him. Remarkable, miraculous. So the official spokesperson for Turning Point came out and said Charlie's essentially the man of steel. His bones are just so thick that it was a miracle. Now, once again, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but that's, to most people, that's kind of, they're not believing it. And I don't know what to tell you. I'm not the surgeon. I don't know what this guy knows. I didn't say what he said. He chose to tweet that. And I respect him for it, because if that's what he was told by the surgeon, then that's what he was told. He's just relaying the information. But to me and to anyone where there's no video evidence of the shooter, none, at an event with thousands of cameras, next to 0% chance of that. I hope they have footage of the shooter at some point. But if they never have video footage of the shooter and they never release the video footage of the shooter in the act of shooting, to me, this is me personally, I'm not going to believe anything they say at all. Why? I've already told people 50 times. I've done events. I've been filmed from behind on events where there was one or two cameramen max. I don't do events like Turning Point. I didn't have as many people filming me from every angle, but I've caught times that I performed from behind just having a friend or two. Charlie was at an event with thousands of people, thousands of cameras rolling, probably hundreds of cameras around the thing. There was a drone in the air at one point. Charlie had cameras from the front, from behind. And when Charlie walks in, you can clearly see that there are dozens, if not hundreds of people standing to the side. When Charlie's friend walked in with the camera, you could see the two roofs where they said he was shot from clearly. Not like, oh, it's so far away you can't see, or it's way too high. It's literally center. If you film Charlie from behind, or you filmed him from the side, from behind, essentially just a little bit off to the side, literally it would be the background. It was so clear in the background when he walked in. I've showed video footage of that. I find it near impossible that no one caught video footage of that. So if they did have video footage of that, where's the footage? If they don't want to show us, I don't have to believe it. That's my perspective. I think Charlie was killed. Obviously, I'm not one of these people saying that he wasn't. I'm underwhelmed with the evidence. And just like JFK's shooter said he was a patsy. He said, I'm a patsy. I'm just a patsy. 2 days later, he was killed. The guy who killed him, they never told people the motive. And I'm not saying they're for sure about the motive, but he had a visitor in his jail cell and he told his visitor his motive. And then that guy told the press, but the press barely reported on it. I don't even think people realized this until 5 years ago. So that's not to say that this is that, but I don't understand this. Oh, let's just get over it. Charlie was near Trump levels, When Trump got shot, it's the same thing. I mean, nobody even really fully looked into that, or I guess some people did, but it just moved on so quickly because Trump didn't actually die and he won the presidency. But let's just say that bullet hit Donald Trump and he died. You don't think people would have dove into that one further? Because yes, do it's the same thing as Charlie. Do individuals hate Trump? Yes. Are there crazy kooks all over the place? Absolutely. But is it also a bigger event that could potentially change wars, change healthcare? Like, this is the president of the United States that is literally going to change our future in some ways. You don't think that there's groups out there that have interest in not allowing him to win and allowing Kamala to win? It's the same thing with Charlie Kirk. Regardless of what you think about it, or regardless of which angles you're questioning about it, I just don't get people who are like, yep, wrap it up, it's over. That's, to me, very weird. Very, very weird. Because I would think Charlie's very similar to Trump. Yes, millions of people hated him. Yes, millions of people loved him. Yes, individuals despised him. And there are creepy individuals out there. But there's also, huge, I would say, powers out there, or rather, just people that know that Charlie, left-wing people, other people, etc., you could, whatever you want to say, that know that Charlie is probably going to be president one day, that Charlie is controlling the youth. So, not to say that it wasn't an individual, but how do you know? How do I know? How does anyone know? I'm just like Charlie wasn't just like me, and he wasn't just like Mark Levin. He had different views about stuff. I'm willing to admit that. Is the other side willing to admit that, or are they going to just act like Charlie's just like him? And I get it gets messy and weird when everybody just argues on X all day and people on both sides act stupid. I see that all the time. And that's why I stay out of these arguments, because it's like, stupid guy from this side argues with stupid guy from this side. And then they just argue all the time. I'm over it. It's like I saw Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez arguing with Randy Fine. I'm not a fan of Randy Fine. I'm not a fan of AOC. It's like they just somehow attract each other and then argue. And it's just of no interest of me. It just seems like I don't want to pick a side because they're both just annoying. But anyway, that's my thoughts. I'm going to go into just one crazy conspiracy theory. I don't even know if I'll call it a conspiracy theory. I'm just going to tell you like the facts of this stuff. And I'm not saying it means anything, but I wanted to get into this one because I find it crazy. And I want to preface this with saying, I don't necessarily think that this means anything. I just think that it just shows you how certain coincidences and certain things can line up. So you could take this of many ways. And I trust my audience to be smart enough to have their own perspective. A lot of times people think that I'm not saying a lot. Like, why don't you say this? Why don't you say that? A lot of people act like they're the master of the universe and their audience is like little students that they need to learn everything. I think I teach people stuff, but I don't think everyone who watches me needs to get all their information from me. Most people who watch me and most people that listen to me, they also listen to other people. They're also smart. They get information from elsewhere. And I trust everyone to be themselves. Not everyone's going to believe everything that I believe, but I don't treat my audience that way. I don't treat them like I need to tell them what I think and that's what is the truth. Unless I'm 100% sure about something, I don't really do that. With that being said, I want to walk through this story of the Illuminati card deck because there is something really weird, like coincidentally. And I am just saying again, I don't think it necessarily means anything, but there is like a correlation between this, and I want to go through the story. So there's this card right here, and I'm going to tell you why it like correlates with something with Charlie. And to those who are going to get mad at this or whatever, I'm not saying this means anything. I'm not saying it was staged. I'm just literally accurately reporting this and how crazy of a coincidence this is. So take from it what you want. I wouldn't cover this if I couldn't verify everything I'm about to say, but I can verify everything I'm about to say. So I think it's interesting, and take from it what you want, then I'll talk about it at the end. So there's this card from an Illuminati card deck that has that face. Most people, if you showed that to, they think it looks exactly like Donald Trump, but this was made in 1995. The card is called Enough is Enough, and it says at the top, at any time, at any place, our snipers can drop you. Have a nice day, right? That card looks very similar to Trump to me. To a lot of people, it looks like Trump, and it was making its rounds when Trump got shot at the Butler rally because it's just kind of a crazy card, right? Let me just show you real quick. That card is from 1995. The Enough is Enough card is from the Illuminati New World Order collectible card game, 1995, published by Steve Jackson Games. It appears in the Assassins expansion, the first booster pack expansion, released in mid-1995. The base game launched in 1994 with the Assassin set following next year. So the game launched in 1994. That card came in 1995. And I want to do a little deep dive on Steven Jackson Games because there's a pretty crazy story about this whole guy behind the card set as well. Just to show you, the Illuminati card game was made by Steven Jackson Games, and it was inspired by the 1975 book, The Illuminatus Trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson and Robert Shea. The game had ominous secret societies competing with each other to control the world through various means, including legal, illegal, and even mystical. So that's what the game was about. It was created by basically a conspiracy theorist who was inspired by Robert Anton Wilson's book, and he had a run-in with the Secret Service 5 years before the game. I always found this really crazy, but here it is from his wiki page. On March 1st, 1990, the Secret Service raided the offices of Steven Jackson Games, seizing 3 computers, 2 laser printers, dozens of floppy disks, and a master copy of GURPS Cyberpunk, a genre toolkit for cyberpunk games written by Lloyd Blankenship, an employee at the time. The Secret Service believed that Blankenship had illegally accessed Bell South systems and uploaded a document possibly affecting 911 systems on Steven Jackson Games' public bulletin board system and or board known as Phoenix, which he also administered. And furthermore, the GURPS Cyberpunk would help others commit computer crimes. During their investigation, the Secret Service also read and deleted private emails on one of the computers. Though materials were later returned in June, the Steven Jackson Games filed a suit in federal court, winning trial. The raid led to the formation of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which was founded in July 1990. So the Secret Service raided them, deleted some emails, and Steven Jackson Games filed a suit against them in federal court and won the lawsuit against the Secret Service. So that's who created this card game, right? I'm going to show you a few other cards that have gone viral because people just think it's pretty crazy that this game was made in 1994, 1995. Here's a card called Terrorist Nuke. A lot of people think it looks like the Twin Towers. It says play this card given 10 plus power at any time to any violent group you control if used with this action, blah, blah, blah. But it's one of the cards in the thing. And of course, well, here's another one. The Epidemic, it says, disaster. This is an attack to destroy at any place. And they're talking about quarantining, right? This is in the 1990s. They have that mask. They have the thing. Charismatic Leader is one of the cards. Some people think it looks like Trump. I think it looks more like Mike Pence, but it's debatable. I'm not saying it is them. It's just, that card has made its rounds online, talking about a charismatic leader. The Pentagon one, a lot of people think that one's crazy because didn't the Pentagon catch on fire after the 9/11 attacks? Once again, this was created in 1994, 1995, around then. And then the other one is there's a Hillary Clinton card. There's a Bill Clinton card, which is not that crazy. Bill Clinton was a president. So, these guys were tapped into what was going on and they just created a really interesting card game. There's a reason I'm going through all this stuff. Sorry about the freezing. Hold on, I'm going to unfreeze it real quick. There's a reason I'm going through all this stuff right now, because this is the card that relates weirdly to Charlie Kirk's assassination. Once again, I'm just going to show you the card and show you why it's kind of bizarre, but this one's called Enough is Enough. It looks oddly similar to Donald Trump. I would guess if you covered up everything else and asked everybody on the street, who does that look like? 9 out of 10 people would say Trump. It says, at any time, at any place, our snipers can drop you. Have a nice day. And some people online pointed out that Charlie's last short that he uploaded to his YouTube channel, and I checked to verify this was true, by the way. This was the last short that he uploaded to his YouTube. You could check it for yourself as well. It was a picture or video of Donald Trump, and the caption was, "Enough is enough." Literally, that was the caption. Does this mean anything? I don't think so. It depends how you see it. For me, do I think it necessarily means something? No, I don't. I just think it's pretty crazy. Like the synchronicities, regardless of what you think, like some people, believe in coincidences. Some people believe in like the universe, like the same way that someone could say it's a miracle that his bones stopped the gun shooting or the bullet. In the same way people believe in miracles and synchronicities, you could believe in this synchronicity. Like, I'm not sitting here saying this means anything. I don't think they staged it. I don't think this card game necessarily has anything to do with it, but I can't help but think it is pretty crazy that the last video he uploaded as a YouTube short said enough is enough with Trump. And there's literally a card made in a 1995 card deck that looks like Trump saying enough is enough. Our snipers can take you down at any time. It's crazy, right? Does it mean anything? Not necessarily. Do I think it has any correlation? Not really, to be honest. I just think like the universe works in mysterious ways, So I don't know what do you guys think about that? I just saw that and I verified everything myself, and I was like, holy crap, that is true. I'm not starting a new theory. That's everybody's talking about it on Twitter and Instagram and stuff. I was just like, no way. Did he really upload that YouTube short as his last short with that exact caption? He did. It's nuts. That's pretty nuts. Like, I can't tell you what that means. Some people believe in a simulation, like the world is simulation. I'm not that person. I believe in God. Someone said, okay, you're an idiot unfollowing. Here's the thing, Brad. If pointing that out bothers you, I don't know what to tell you. I could be one of those people that just sits here and says, "Oh, I believe that really means something." I just told you I don't. I don't think that really means that much. It just like, what do you think are the chances that someone made a card deck with a card that looks exactly like Trump with that caption, and the name of the card is "Enough is Enough" in 1995, and then Charlie Kirk post that to his YouTube short as his last one before he passed, or whoever his person running his YouTube is, because he probably didn't post it himself. I'm not saying it means anything, but it's just a crazy coincidence. Instead of getting mad at it, you could just say that's pretty wild, but I don't think it means anything. That's literally what I'm saying. I don't. So if you really want to use that, say you don't believe any questions and you hate questions, you could take that as an example of that's how things work. There's sometimes, I think earlier this year, the Buffalo Bills came back to beat the Ravens, and the live odds, because they were down so much with so few time left, the live odds were like 99.7% that they were going to lose, but they accomplished the 0.3% and they won, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that's a conspiracy theory. It just means they beat the odds. So if you think Charlie beat the odds by his bone density was so strong that he stopped a bullet, if you think the odds are being beaten that nobody had video footage of the shooter, why does it bother you so much that, this card game beat the odds by having weird synchronicities that might not mean anything? Like, why does that bother you? Because people beat the odds all the time in ways that are real. And I'm not even sitting here saying that it means anything. I just thought it was interesting. Like, that is interesting to me that card said that. It looks like Trump's face. And Charlie's last post matched that with the Trump post. That's, I think the odds of that are under 1%. But 1% odds happen. If you do 1,000 things, 1% happens 10 times. If you do 1,000,000 things, 1% of 1,000,000, I believe, is 10,000. So, if 1,000,000 things happen, 1% wins 10,000 times. If you do 100 things, 1% wins one time. If you do 1,000 things, 1% wins 10 times. It's just math. That's the math. Like the lowest percentile chance doesn't. It's like someone hits the lottery. It's 0.000000001% chance, but someone does it. Doesn't mean anything. It's just, I don't know, something I wanted to share because I just found it pretty crazy. On that note, I'm going to read some questions, but I want to wrap this up as far as like what I'm thinking. I mean, obviously, I'm not getting my disinformation from the Rothschild guy on News Nation that I played at the beginning. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go back to the beginning. The most nuanced and unbiased thing I could say was there's a way to think that some people are perhaps going too far without saying, wrap this up. It's basically been solved. Stop asking questions, because it, in my opinion, has not. And I don't trust anyone that wants everything to just be wrapped up right away. Like, oh, this is what they said. This is what the government said. Even though there's no video footage of it, let's just keep it moving. I want to see video footage of the shooter. The text didn't make much sense to me. The magic, not the magic bullet, but the miracle bone density is possible. But I don't know. To me, this is not like an open shut. Oh, we've solved it. Let's all go home. I tend to not trust people that say that, but everybody has an opinion. That's the internet. I log into Twitter and there's a lot of people saying a lot of things. Some people making claims that they don't know. Some people trying to wrap it up on the other side when they don't know that. And that's why I just stay to myself and say my own thing. Cause if I believed what someone else said, I wouldn't do a show. If there was anybody I looked up to that was like, oh, they're doing exactly what I would do, then I would just literally retire and do something else. But that's not the case. I don't see anybody thinking exactly what I'm thinking or doing what I'm doing. Jose, in the comments, you're saying that Charlie's family was Catholic. Some people in his family might have been, but this is not for me to say. Charlie, at least in his own words, was a Christian, and Candace and others are trying to say he was thinking about being a Catholic. I mean, it's not for me to weigh in on, and I didn't know Charlie, so I'm not going to sit and proclaim what he was going to become, because that's not really provable. Nor at this point, he was a Christian. He believed in our Lord and Savior. That's enough for me. I don't have anything to say on that because I don't know him. If other people want to, that's for them. There's a lot of strange behavior going on right now. There's a lot of people pretending like they know things that they don't. There's a lot of people pretending that they know that it's all solved when it's not. So I'm just observing and seeing the evidence as it comes in. Someone said, it feels like this is all purposeful, like they want a bunch of conspiracies floating around to make the truth harder to see. Yeah, I mean, here's what I think about that is you could blame some sort of nefarious force for having all these conspiracy theories, but the reality is when you have billions of people with internet access and hundreds of millions of people on Twitter and Facebook, you don't even agree with your family on everything at Thanksgiving. So in what world is everyone going to agree on Twitter? There's going to be 50,000 theories because there's millions of people that don't think the same. So I don't think, yes, there's probably forces that are making up theories to throw people off the trail, but probably a lot of it is just organically done by individuals that just don't, there's people that think it's not real. There's people that think it's this. There's people that think it's this angle, from the back, from the front, from the side, from the left. I saw a new one recently where they think it was like an explosive, coming from inside Charlie's shirt. Like there's all sorts of people that are saying every angle of it. I guess for you as the consumer of media, if you care and want to come to your own conclusion, you have to consider everything and just be as honest about it as you can to yourself. I've seen 50 different theories. Some I think are really dumb. Others, I'm like, I don't know about that. Like that's just who I am. I can't speak for it. I'm not the type of person to be like, oh, well, people knew Charlie, so let's just wrap it up. That's never going to be me. It's never going to be me about Trump or Charlie or anybody. It's not going to be like, well, because some people know him personally, now it's time for everybody to stop asking questions and believe the FBI. That person's not ever going to be me. But I have seen some people post stuff that makes sense to me, others that doesn't. Thank you, Kai. I appreciate it. Someone said, get right with Christ. Outside validation is not the way. The truth is written within you, and Christ will guide you to the truth, not other people. Thank you, Mac. Appreciate that. Someone said, look up the meaning of the medal is what I was referring to. You can hear Megan ask the man, Frank, that he was protected with the St. Michael medal on. Yeah, I haven't heard that interview, but if people want to listen to what he said about it, that's fine. I don't know. I see some people in the comment, like some people say, don't question it because his wife needs to grieve. There's people in the comments saying they don't trust his wife. Like I don't know his wife. I'm not going to say all those things. I'm going to be patient, but I guess there's tragedies on tragedies because I understand why people don't trust anything. Even if I want them to trust certain things, I can't just sit and be like, I don't understand why you don't trust anything. We've been lied to way too much. If they want us to trust anything, they need to tell us the truth about it. Like, I don't trust the government. I don't trust Trump. I don't trust Fox News. I don't trust the New York Post. Am I saying that I don't believe anything Fox says? No, they tell the truth sometimes. There's some decent people on there. I thought Tucker was the best. Now he's gone. But, I don't not trust these news sources and trust these people based on like hallucination. I don't trust them because they have not earned my trust. And the more you spend time researching who's who, you realize that everyone's kind of playing some sort of role. So they don't deserve my trust. As far as individuals like around Charlie, I don't know half these people. So I'd have to think about it before I had an opinion. But I want to say this too. This has like nothing to do with this, but I was watching college football yesterday and there was a commercial for schizophrenia medication. That's the first time I've ever seen schizophrenia medication on television. How messed up is this country that schizophrenia is mainstream enough to run a commercial on television? Like that to me is pretty scary. They're like, if you might have this, you might have schizophrenia. Schizophrenia should be something that's so uncommon, either induced by drugs or mental issues, that the only thing you would need to do for schizophrenia is bring your family member or yourself to a doctor if you're one of the rare people that has that issue. But apparently it's so common now that schizophrenia has a television ad on college football. That is insane to me. Like first it was pharmaceuticals and pills. Then after COVID, they started doing these injectables where you're like a guy taking steroids or something, where they're like, inject this medicine. Like they always change what they're doing so subtly. And I always wonder to myself, do people realize this? Like, are people paying attention to how crazy the big pharma's getting? And now just overnight, they're just like, yeah, if you have schizophrenia, just, gonna take this medication. It's like, what the hell is going on in this country? And it is like, I know that the world has never been perfect. And I'm always trying to think like, are things getting crazier now, or are we just consuming so much information that we realize it's getting crazier now? Yes, the phones are not necessarily helping, but I don't remember growing up seeing all these pharmaceutical commercials. There was always medicine that made sense. Like, oh, here's Band-Aids, here's this, here's that. Functional medicine. Now, everything's Ozempic. Like schizophrenia is mainstream now. Dude, something's really wrong in this country. Really, really wrong. Someone said, how would I know which one of me is schizo? Well, that's another thing too. It's like, what type of schizophrenic's going to be watching college football and be like, oh yeah, I have 8 personalities. I don't know if the self-awareness is necessarily there, but and I don't know if there's that many people with that issue, or they're just trying to make people think they have it in order to get them on meds, or if it costs barely anything to make these medications, and if they get one customer, they get like tens of thousands of dollars, so that's why they're able to budget this ad. I don't know, but I just I try to be a moral person, and I try to be a logical person, and this is my issue. If I could say one thing I don't know if this would be my one thing I'd say to the president, but if I could talk to people who actually ran this country and knowing they actually cared, which they probably don't, I would be like, the issue is not necessarily, oh, capitalism's failing and socialism's rising. I mean, that's not the real core issue. The core issue is nothing is moral. Health insurance is a total scam. Car insurance is a total scam. Big pharma is a total scam. Everyone's scamming everyone. Usury loans are a scam. Everything's a scam. And scamming has become normalized. And if you don't scam other people, it's hard to stay afloat. You either have to work for one of these scammy companies, become a scammy person. Like the whole world is being rigged against morality, against Christ, against the truth. And if you want to just go get your car fixed and you don't have the insurance for it, you need to know somebody, because there's a whole insurance thing going on where it's like they don't even want to deal with it. If you don't have insurance and you go to a hospital or something, they charge you 8 different ways for things that you don't even understand. But at the same time, it's negotiable because they're just like making up the prices. It's like everything is it's not like, oh, I'm providing this service and you pay this sort of money. The whole country is being wrapped in immorality behind lawyers, behind lawsuits, behind insurance grifts. And it's all like everybody's losing their soul in this process. Anytime you do anything with anyone, there's some sort of contract to shield themselves from liabilities while they do the most grimy things possible that no one used to do 60, 70 years ago. It's not like the world was ever perfect, but there is like America is passive aggressively riddled with just complete ridiculousness. I talked to somebody the other day who was a driver, and he told me that he came from Iraq, and he was Kurdish. And he told me that, his daughter lives in, a bad city or a bad part of a city, and that her car was stolen. Somebody he has security footage. Somebody lasered the window, cut the window out, used a fake key, and stole the car with computers, basically. Lasers and computers stole the car. They found it all messed up, and the police didn't do anything and couldn't do anything because they couldn't see who did it. And they didn't care. And like, that's the world we live in. People are robbing and stealing so much because it's easy for them to rob and steal. As long as they don't get caught, nothing happens. And the police don't seem like they're in any rush to catch anybody. And especially if they don't do it with a weapon or almost kill somebody, then they probably won't go to jail for that long. So it's like they know the consequences, and there aren't consequences. Even if they get caught, probably barely anything will happen. So we're living in a world where the police don't really care. They don't do anything. Nobody seems to care. Robberies are increasing. Everybody's scamming with insurance. Prices of everything are going up. Quality's going down. I'm not complaining because I'm a grateful person, but it's just like this country is not what it used to be. And nobody could put a finger on it because they're like, but we're one of the richest countries in the world. If California has the third or fourth biggest economy in the world, why is there so much homelessness? Why is there so much trash? LA doesn't look like a city. Dude, California is the third or fourth biggest economy in the world. In the world. The entire state should be able to look like Dubai if they wanted to, but it doesn't. Most of it looks like shit. And the nice areas are getting shittier. And the crime is spreading out to all the suburbs, and the counties that have better prosecutors are being hit from criminals from other counties where the prosecutor lets them out 20 times. And this is happening all over the country. And this is just my message. And I'm just being honest to Republicans that have so much pride I live in a Republican state. This is happening in every state. This is happening in Texas, in Austin, in Dallas, in Houston. It's happening in Tennessee, in Memphis, in Nashville. It's happening in Utah. Salt Lake City is a disaster. You can't name a red state where it's not happening. Yes, I understand it's in the cities, but as the cities get worse, so do the suburbs. And if you're in the suburb of a nice Republican state, I guarantee you that your suburb is getting shittier and shittier and shittier. And I guarantee you that the criminals are starting to realize that there's not barbed wire fences everywhere in your neighborhood. So they're starting to rob and steal your neighbors too. Like, this is the reality of the country. Yes, you can buy yourself out of it. Yes, you can kind of get away from it. Like, you don't have to live in the hood, but this is the reality that's going on in every single state, in every single city, and in every single suburb. The country is falling apart. And the amount of trade deals that Howard Lutnick makes doesn't matter. The Intel making more money doesn't matter. The fact that California has all this economy clearly isn't working because nobody seems to give a shit. Trump is like trying to sort of give a shit, but I don't even trust him. But it's like he's starting the conversation. Democrats are getting mad. Republicans are arguing the logistics of sending in the National Guard. And I understand why, but it's like, this is just the reality of the country. I don't want to sit and think of the negatives all the time, but I really personally do believe that there needs to be heavier enforcement. I think the police need to care more. They need to actually prove that they're serious about stopping robberies. And, Republican governors need to do something, and Democrats need to be embarrassed and ashamed of themselves. But, I just say all this to be like any good person in this country. Like, I talk to any good person, any immigrant, any person that came to America to escape a different country. They're like, what is going on here? The Kurdish guy from Iraq was telling me that we're like, the Kurdish part of Iraq, he thinks is safer than America. He's like, they actually, in the Middle East, they actually punish criminals. Like, it's not completely uncorrupt. Obviously, the Middle East is riddled with corruption and in some cases crime. And I love America. I don't want to live in Iraq. I'm just saying, like, people used to come to America and be like, wow, I'm escaping Iraq. Wow, I'm escaping Afghanistan. Wow, I'm escaping communism. I'm escaping Poland. I'm escaping the UK. But now all these immigrants are coming to America and their families are just getting robbed if they have to live in the hood. It's like, that's the country. That's what we live in. Like, it's weird. The whole country's weird. And just like insurance is a scam, I'm not saying you shouldn't get insurance. I'm just saying the whole system is like tangled with lawyers and scams. It's not like, oh, here's my money, help me, or I don't have money, the government gives me money and you help me. Everything's a scam. This whole country is just riddled with scams. And this is my message to Republicans once again. And this is not telling you to vote for the left. I'm just being real. Trump doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's an elitist. He's wealthy. He doesn't have to care about these things. He probably hasn't even thought about insurance in 70 years. He's got 18 people working for him, doing stuff for him. Trump doesn't care. He's not a moral person. He's not trying to fix everything. He might fix a few things. He might try to fix the crime a little bit. And I'm grateful for any attempt he makes that's moral. But like this idea that, he's going to fix it all, it's just not the reality. And I want to say this without being rude, because I know that there's massive, massive flaws of every generation. And you have to understand, I appreciate a lot of the great things about boomers, because there are things that everybody needs them for. And when they're gone and the younger generation takes over, I'm very concerned, because the younger generation seems insane. But this is the part that really bothers me about boomers, and not all, but some. And you guys know, if you're not the boomer that is like this, then you know a boomer that's like this, because it's a lot. I'm not being rude. I'm just being honest. Boomers, they are obsessed with Trump more than younger Republicans. Younger Republicans call Trump out more. Older Republicans are obsessed with Donald Trump. It comes across as very selfish to me, because they're not going to be around in 50, 60 years to deal with all of the issues that are being set into stone right now. And all of Trump's weaknesses and flaws, they're not concerned with, because they're not going to have to actually suffer the consequences in 30 years or so of all the issues that he's not solving. So it seems like this very selfish relationship they have with Trump, where it's like, we're at the end of our lives. The entire country is completely screwed up. The entire younger generation is screwed. We've destroyed the economy completely. We've been lied about every war, and we've basically destroyed the country. But it's not our fault. It's your fault. And we're just going to be obsessed or hate Trump until, the day we pass. And that's all we really know. We don't want to think about anything critically. We just want to ride his coattails, or be like a Democrat boomer where they're just insane and they hate Donald Trump in the weirdest way. And it's like, it's so selfish, because all these issues that we're facing with all of these scams, you're not going to have to deal with them for the next 50, 60 years. It's going to be my generation that probably is not going to have any social security money. The debt is going to destroy our economy. Our economy is already destroyed. One thing Charlie was doing, even though he was very combative with the left, he understood why the leftists thought the things they did, even though he disagreed with them. I saw a video of it. He said, I get why they think the things they think, because they can't afford anything. You talk to someone older and they're like, get a job and get rent. Your job versus rent, the equation is totally screwed up through inflation. You could buy a picket fence. You could get a job. Nowadays, they're sending all of our jobs overseas. They have all these H-1B visa scams. Every neighborhood that you live in, unless you can afford literally the nicest place in the world, is turning into it looks like a foreign country. Everybody's pissed off, and I'm not blaming foreigners. I'm just saying there's no sort of cohesion, because everybody's getting scammed. Everybody's working hard. People aren't, their dollar's not going as far, whether you're a Native American, whether your family came here from Europe 80 years ago, or whether you came here 15 years ago and you're just trying to make do. Everybody's facing the issues of having a shit economy. Everything costs more. Every place you want to buy costs more, but the quality's going down. The cohesion's going down. It's making everybody really uncomfortable. And it seems like, and I'm not trying to be rude, but only the older generation doesn't seem to understand it. Every problem they caused, they just seem oblivious of. So they'd rather either obsessively hate Donald Trump or act like he's the savior of humanity when he's not doing anything. And we're going to have to deal with all these issues. The reason that so many kids are becoming left-wing, the schools have been left-wing for decades. You didn't pay attention. Nobody wanted to raise their kids. They just dropped them off at government schools. You drop your kids off at government schools. You raise them on evil media and evil music. And then the kid comes out evil and you're like, oh, I don't know how that happened. You weren't paying attention for 50 years. That's how it happened. And I'm not saying it's necessarily your fault, because this could happen any generation. It just I just find it so frustrating, where I believe, based on the evidence, boomers don't realize that they were screwing everything up, because it wasn't screwed up then. It's like inflation. You print money for 50 years, then the currency inflates during a Democrat, and a Republican says it's a Democrat says it's a Republican. But the reality is it was both parties for decades, and especially during COVID. It's the same thing with all of these issues. Like, people weren't paying attention because America was so good. But America was slowly and silently falling apart from the 60s until now. And the boomers are not completely innocent. Like, oh, we didn't do anything. We were the best generation. No, you weren't. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's like super, super selfish, super oblivious. not paying attention to anything, completely ignoring the direction everything was going, letting your kids do all these things and not even realizing how evil it was. And then this generation comes all screwed up like they raised themselves. Why did they probably didn't raise themselves, but they probably raised themselves on the evil television that you didn't notice was evil, on the evil music that you didn't notice was evil. All of the schools have been this way for a long time. Now it's only after it gets so bad that everybody figures it out. And I'm not saying that I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but I guess I just take it super personally because, when I have a wife and children, I'm going to have to raise a kid in this world. It's not going to be like how I was raised. It's not going to be like how you were raised. And it's nearly impossible to get away from now. It's like inescapable. I try to get away from issues if I can. And what I've noticed traveling the country, living in different places, etc., is how quickly things change. Even the areas that are supposed to be the escapes, they're all changing. They're all like almost overnight, like things just get weird. And then everyone's looking around like, is this just me or not? Like the cities that used to be nice, you talk to anybody from the cities that used to be nice and they're like, dude, I lived here for 10 years. It felt safe. It felt cool. And then almost overnight, everybody's telling me don't walk around at night. People are getting abducted from, in vans and stuff. And it's like these things that used to be like haunted horror stories become common knowledge to everybody. And then they run away. And then they run away from the city. And then they go to the new place that's nice. And then the new place that's nice in 10 years turns into the shithole. It's like Austin used to be this safe, clean city. So did San Francisco. San Francisco and Austin are the clean, safe, nice cities. Now they're literally like Los Angeles or worse. Now what? Now where do you go? Now you go to the next place and turn like it's not necessarily people's fault, but I'm trying to solve the mystery of why everything's getting so shitty. Both parties are screwing up. Both parties are destroying the economy. Both parties are printing too much money. The Democrats are letting in tens of millions of illegals. The Republicans are allowing a bunch of legal immigration scams from places that don't care about the same things you care about, or they're just, doing what they can because why not? If there's loopholes, use them. There's really very little law enforcement in the sense of like, Republicans talk a tough game, but in the states that they run, they're not doing anything. No Republican governor stepping into these shitty cities. The problem is starting to get to the suburbs. Anybody that I've talked to that's had an issue in the last like 5 years, very few people are like, oh yeah, the cops really cared when somebody robbed my car. Everybody's like, yeah, no, the cops did literally nothing. They don't care. They're not interested in helping. They just say they don't have enough evidence. There's no like incentive to crack the crime. I'm not a saint and I'm not a police officer, but I would think like if I was a police officer in a city with a lot of crime, maybe you just give up or something. And you just like, oh, we give up. But it's like, if you're policing a neighborhood that's literally just falling apart, like at what point do you guys have investigation units to try to figure out who's doing stuff? Because car break-ins are probably at an all-time high. I wouldn't know, but like any city that you talk to, everybody knows cars are getting broken into, guns are getting stolen. Like this country is super ghetto. Are the police stopping it? Are they catching people? If they catch people, do the prosecutors even arrest? Like I understand it's easier said than done to solve, but I guess the whole point of this massive rant, besides just venting, is Trump is not going to completely fix these problems. He's not the be all end all. And I'm not necessarily blaming him. It's just, I can't like people that act like it's not a problem. Like most people think that car insurance and health insurance aren't a scam. Most people have no idea that it wasn't like this 50 years ago. People had more Christian morality. People had certain pride in doing stuff. And somehow between lawyers and politicians, like the whole country's wrapped in 1,000 scams and there's like no way to get out of it. So, I don't want to get on too much and be negative, but I just know that like these problems are not going to be fixed until someone actually cares. And I get why people like Trump more than other politicians, because he kind of like pretends to care. And in some cases he kind of cares, but like the whole H-1B visa thing, everyone was celebrating. Oh my gosh, he's charging them $100,000 a year, blah, blah, blah. Whatever her name is, Caroline Leavitt, she came out and corrected the statement, and it's $100,000 fee and they're not applying it to people with H-1B visas now, and they're only going to apply it to the lottery next time. And someone said in the comments, it's like you're throwing a glass of water on a house fire. And that's the best analogy I've heard all year. That's what the Trump administration's doing. Are they worse than Democrats? Probably not. But are they fixing the issue? No, they're taking a glass of water and tossing it on a house fire, acting like the fire is going to go out. And I'm not saying the fire is necessarily just H-1B visas. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just there's 1,000 issues in this country, and none of them are getting solved. So I'm just being realistic about the world I'm growing up in. It's like, unfortunately, and this is something that every politician should think about, in order to escape all these issues, you're going to have to be rich to try to escape them, and you still won't be able to escape them because you can't live in a normal neighborhood anymore. It's almost not possible. And with that being said, if you do, that's not fair to people that are just doing their thing, that they have to live with crime and theft all the time just because they can't afford to get away. It's not really fair. It's not good. It's not a good, healthy country that has all unlimited problems. If you have trillions of dollars to spend and be in debt, why can't you spend a few trillion and make America safe? Because they don't care. And I know it's a little more difficult than that, but it's disappointing. Someone said ICE is conditioning us to get used to people getting taken. I hope not, but I'm not going to rule anything out because, I don't know what they're doing completely, and I don't know what they're conditioning us for because I don't trust Trump. So I wouldn't rule that out. I'm not saying that's necessarily true, but I'm not going to argue. Time will tell. Let's see. I'll read a few comments. You guys could talk about anything. The Charlie stuff. Someone said the truth of the matter is Charlie's parents and past is odd. He was a sketchy person. He came out of nowhere. I mean, he definitely was like the heir of the youth in politics. He was definitely, working with donors, working with the establishment, etc. But I don't, you could be skeptical about that. I will say this. I'm not saying that means anything, or I'm not trying to disrespect Charlie, obviously, but I kind of see it like Tucker. When Tucker worked for mainstream media, they liked him. When Tucker used his leverage to give more truth, they hated him. When Tucker eventually got fired for being too honest, he went on his own and became super honest. So, sometimes they hate you the most if you're part of them and you break away. So I feel like that the potential of Charlie being like that is the same. Yes, Charlie was connected. Yes, Charlie seemed like he came up to be the heir to the youth. Yes, Charlie was connected to the establishment, to the donors, to the Republican Party. But in the videos I'm seeing of Charlie over the last year, he wasn't Mark Levin. He wasn't Ben Shapiro. He wasn't Donald Trump. I don't think Charlie was he liked Trump, but he definitely was more believable than Trump was, and he questioned more things than Trump. You could find 10 videos of things that Charlie questioned that you will never hear Donald Trump say. Never. You will never hear Ted Cruz say. So everyone has the right to be skeptical of everything and anything, but, as much as you could say, well, this could be that, it could also be that, Charlie was highly connected, but trying to play a role where he was slowly shifting the establishment Republicans into the right direction. But, I trust I don't know if I would say trust, but the way I talk to people, unless I'm 100% sure on something, I know most people who run YouTube channels, they're like, I'm the expert. I know everything about everything. You come to listen to me and believe what I say. I'll do that if I think I'm right on a topic, but on something like this, I try to provide value, give you the value, and then let you do what you want with it. I respect my audience enough. I'm sure there's 20 people in the chat that have 20 different opinions on this topic. It's not a topic that's fully solved. So how can I sit here and tell my audience, don't think that or don't think this, when the evidence we're being given is not substantial enough to impress any of us? That's kind of how I feel about it, and that's how I think about it. But if people want to look into every angle of it, I mean, that's your right as an American citizen to use public information that's available to make a decision. That's what everyone's doing to some extent. And in politics, this is what I've noticed in podcasting and politics at this point, and I don't know how much everybody pays attention or how much you research and look into, but the amount that I've spent, it's easy for me to kind of tell who people are. Not completely, because some people are themselves and they're confused on certain topics, but for the most part, I feel like if I wanted to, if you could name 30 people, I could pretty much tell you who they are. Not as a person or anything, but like what their role is. Like there's a lot of people that they're doing this, but they're always doing this and that and this. So it's like, to me, there's a lot of questionable characters in this space, because it's a space that matters in a sense of, let's just say, which direction is the future going to move into, right? Just like with Charlie. Charlie was a huge influence in the youth, but he wasn't the be all end all, but he had perhaps the most influence on the right, especially mainstream. You don't think that the government wants people to believe what they're saying? You don't believe that foreign countries want people to believe what they're saying? It's like certain people say, well, Qatar's doing this and Israel's saying this and Ukraine is saying this and Russia's saying this. I think people exaggerate about who's working with who, and I think that people are overstating it. But the reality is, and perhaps the reason everybody's so scrambled, is because, of course, every country is going to want people to believe their narrative. Every government is going to want you to side with them. And in media, although the claims of foreign governments in many cases, I think, is overstated on some sides. Like, I don't think everyone works for Qatar or Russia. That's not true. There are a lot of people that just seem like they're regurgitating what someone wants them to believe. So, you should be able to figure out at this point who seems like a good faith actor and a good person, and who seems kind of just like a plant or an agent of chaos, or, someone that is misleading you. Because for me, I could tell just off the top, like, there's a lot of people that just I don't trust, I don't listen to. They always show their hand of what they're doing, and it's so easy to pick apart their narratives. And, I don't say anything I can't prove, but to me, it's like, obviously some people, their motives are not mine, or their, beliefs are not mine. And I don't think that they want the same things for America that I want. So, the time tells all, and time will tell you who someone is. Time will tell you who they really are. Times of chaos and tragedy will show people's true character. For example, anybody that got COVID wrong, it's not that I disagree with anything they say, but I just don't think they're that smart. Because if you got fooled for a little bit, understandable. I'm talking about people that got it like completely wrong, like Scott Adams. I like Scott Adams. I don't dislike him, but he got so wrapped in his own ego and bias that he became a dunce for 2 years. I think Scott Adams is a smart guy, but he shows what happens when ego kind of intertwines with, your intelligence. No disrespect to Scott. I, pray for his healing and everything, but that's kind of just how I see that. Same with other people that I'm not going to name, but they're really good on other topics. They don't understand the health and pharmaceutical industry at all. They're not skeptical whatsoever. They're totally normals, totally normies, total normies on that topic. Sorry, I don't know why that was so hard to say. So it doesn't mean I can't look at them and say that they say some things that are true, but I don't know. It's just like the more things that happen, the more I'm just intaking and being like, why did they say that? Like, why are they pretending like they're so sure? Why are they completely wrong about this topic? And I take it for what it is. I think sometimes it's not even that certain people are playing a role, but they just get wrapped up in their own like narcissism, where they just think they know everything. And, they become these figures who they go on podcasts and they tell everybody what to think. So then they're like this, even with the Charlie situation, the same people that are like, and don't get it twisted, because with Candace, like, I've watched a few of her videos. I think what people say she's saying and what she's saying are two different things. Like, she's asking a lot of questions, but then people are saying she's saying all this stuff. It's like, if you watch what she's saying, you could make the claim that she's asking too many questions, but the response, it's the same with Tucker Carlson. Like, when Tucker does a podcast with Daryl Cooper, I watch that podcast and then I watch the reaction of the podcast, and it's like people are freaking out. I listened to it and thought, yeah, it was okay. It was cool. It was interesting, but it's not going to like change my life or anything. Other people, they're acting like Daryl Cooper just, like resurrected a World War II villain from his grave. Like, so everybody acts a certain way when stuff happens. But with, Candace, to me, she's asking a lot of questions, trying to basically get info, get video footage, get picture footage. It's a very bold game she's playing. I feel like she provided a picture of a Dairy Queen. Like, is that picture accurate or not? I have no idea. But if it is, then clearly Candace is better at researching than our entire government. If it's not, she just made a huge mistake. Like, I don't know, but has anyone in the government or law enforcement come out and said Candace's picture was right or wrong? I haven't heard anything about it. I've heard nothing about it. So you would think if it were wrong, they'd come out at some point and say it's wrong. So I'll be patient on all that. But it's like she's diving deep and desperately trying to get information that it seems like most media is not. For me personally, even with things that I disagree with Candace of doing, like, I don't know what's worse, that or somebody that says this is completely solved, let's stop asking about it. It depends who you are, what you want, but I don't think that this is completely solved. So I wouldn't necessarily do what she's doing, but I think it's, how would I know if I got a picture? How would I be able to verify that it was real? I don't know. How did she verify it? I have no idea. I guess what I'm saying is too, why doesn't the side that doesn't like Candace, why don't they do journalism like that? Why don't they say, hey, Candace, is this picture real? How did you verify this picture? That's a good question, right? She asked the question. I think I have a video footage of this guy at Dairy Queen. Okay. Or a picture. Is it real? Is it not? Is it accurate? That's a good, but people don't seem to ask her those questions for some reason. They ask her, like, they're like, shut up, shut it down. It's like, okay, I guess if you want, but to me, I'm just kind of sitting back, taking it all in and just watching how people are acting about stuff. And I'm finding that so many, like, just like you could get mad at somebody like trying to act like they know everything. I don't want to speak for Candace because she has made some claims about certain things that she seems really sure about. It's like personal, private things. I don't get into that because I didn't know Charlie. I don't know these billionaires that he may or may not have had a meeting with. How am I supposed to know? So that's not going to be like my thing, saying these things that I don't know. Candace says she knows. They say she doesn't. So I get why people are thinking she's doing too much. But then there's people on the other side that are acting like they know for sure that it's not something and that it's all done and it's exactly what the Fed said. And it's like, to me, that's just as crazy, if not crazier, where it's like, that's the internet though. Everybody's got an opinion. I guess I just don't trust people that act like they're so sure about everything. It couldn't be that. How do you know? Who are you? How do you know? You're for sure that it's not that? You're for sure that it is that? I think it takes a level of like, everybody wants to act like they're front and center, the expert on all these topics. Like, I don't know. But one thing I will say about Candace, while I understand that people are upset at some of the stuff she's doing, is anyone else trying to figure it out as hard as her? To me, she's doing more than the FBI, which is a crazy, bold, and, I guess brave thing to do. But I would rather, I guess I would trust a channel more that was asking good questions and saying, well, I don't like what Candace is doing. Well, what are you doing? She's asking a lot of questions. In some cases, she's making claims. In other cases, she's making questions. But the people that want her to stop the most are asking no questions. So it's like, you want me to hate what she's doing, but you're literally just being like, just trust the feds. Trust those text messages. Trust the fact that there's no video footage. Trust the miracle story. You can. You're allowed to. I don't trust that personally. But so, if you want to be better than Tucker or Candace or whatever, you just like have to be better. It's the same with Charlie. If you don't like Charlie, be better. Speak better. Don't get mad at him. Don't get all crazy. Just do something better than him. And then, your work will speak for itself. But a lot of people on the left and the right don't seem to want to do that. They want to just act like everyone's acting crazy. I would never use the word conspiracy theory as like I'll just be like, that theory is bad. I don't believe that theory. That theory is stupid. I'll never be like, there's so many conspiracy theories. Yeah, because we're lied to about everything. They lied to us about the wars. Caroline Leavitt admits now on stage that we were lied to about wars. So it's a mainstream opinion now that the media companies have apologized for lying about the wars. Tucker's apologized for lying about the wars. They lied to us about big pharma. They lied to us about lockdowns. Like, our entire lives have been a lie. On what planet are we supposed to just sit here and be like, yeah, well, now I trust them? Trust who? Why? Why would I trust the mainstream media? Why would I trust what they're telling me when it doesn't? Like, I would trust it if it made sense and I could verify it. I don't trust anything that they're saying. I talked about it the other day, but the whole Venezuela thing, I don't believe them either. And I'm very confident about that. I don't have anything to say in favor of the Venezuela government. I don't care about them. But if they were just blowing up drug boats because they wanted to stop drugs to America, they would be blowing up drug boats coming from Mexico and Colombia as well. But they're not. They're not blowing up those drug boats. They're only blowing up Venezuela drug boats. It has nothing to do with drugs or the boat. It has to do with the fact that we're at war with Venezuela. Venezuela works with our enemies, Iran and Russia and China. That's why they're blowing up boats. We're at war. We're blowing up their boats. It's just a one-sided war because Venezuela's not doing anything. But if you think that's just because they're bringing drugs, like, the average person's wrong about that. 90% of MAGA probably actually thinks Donald Trump is just blowing up Venezuelan boats just to stop drugs. I'm not for drug boats. I'm not for Venezuela. I don't like Maduro. I think he's a horrible leader. But I know that they're not just blowing up boats because there's drugs on them. It doesn't make any sense if they were or only doing it from Venezuela. It's because Venezuela is our enemy in the World War III. So, and I'm not trying to say this and be misconstrued, but it's like 90% of people are wrong about this because most people get their opinions from Fox News and Newsmax, which or maybe not Newsmax, but them too, and New York Post. And if you haven't figured out by now, as far as some of these media networks, they have a certain agenda and a war agenda. So they're not going to do a deep diving investigation on this. They're going to basically regurgitate, in many cases, whatever the Trump administration is saying and whatever the deep state's saying. So, it's like everything is a lie. I could look at these things without becoming too one-sided or the other. Like my thing is like, not like, oh, they should let drugs come to America. They shouldn't. Or, oh, you're in favor of Maduro. I'm not. I think he's a horrible leader for the Venezuelan people. Terrible. But I don't believe at all that they're blowing those boats up just because they're bringing drugs. They're blowing them up because they're coming from Venezuela. And it's an act of war because Trump is at war with Iran, Russia, and China, indirectly or directly. Most people don't know that. So who cares what most people think? Who cares what the mainstream narrative is? Well, I heard this person say, who cares? Why would people stop asking questions when everything is like a lie? The food is a lie. The drug industry is a lie. Doctors are incredible and they do great work. I'm just saying a huge portion of the insurance and the money they get for giving this medication, the fact that schizophrenia medication is now being promoted on football games. Hey, psychos, do you have 18 personalities? Hey, you watching football with your 15 different mindsets? Here, take this schizophrenia medication. It's not good that that's mainstream enough now to have an ad on television. But that's the country we live in. What I've noticed in general too, like outside of people's opinions, and this is another layer of like the Charlie situation that's really upsetting besides everything about it, is the side that wants people to stop questioning stuff and questioning the wars and questioning this, they're not winning the narrative. They're losing. Like, everybody's questioning everything and there's nothing they could do to stop it. And Charlie was one person that was kind of on that side that was letting them know and letting a lot of people know we're losing the PR battle. Like, Charlie was being very honest about it. He was saying we're losing the PR battle. We're losing the youth. Megyn Kelly's being honest about it. So is Tucker. But they don't want to hear it. So it's just like, I don't know. The only way to get people to actually believe people again is to provide enough trust. And then people still might not believe it, but I just don't understand where they're going with all this. Like, no one trusts anything right now. Nobody buys what they're saying. I respect the guy from Turning Point. He seems like a nice guy. I know nothing. I have nothing bad to say about him. I don't even think I've met him. Maybe I have and not known it, but the spokesperson for Turning Point, I have nothing bad to say about him. He posted what he posted. Most people don't believe it. That's a fact. That's not my fault. That's not his fault. It's just he wrote that. And I guess he thought maybe when he wrote it that, I don't know what he thought. Ask him, did he think that people would believe it? Did he think that people wouldn't? Did he not care? Did he just want to give the information that he heard from the surgeon out? I don't know. I have no idea. But most people are not buying that because, there's a lot of people that understand those type of guns and stuff. And like none of them seem to believe it. Maybe it's a miracle. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But most people aren't believing it. Like the more they say, the less the people believe because it's not like good evidence. And I'm not saying it's bad evidence, but telling me that there's no video of the shooter, I don't believe that. I believe there's got to be video footage of the roof. And people want to see it. Saying like those text messages, I think it would have been more believable if those never came out. The more I look at those, it just, to me, seems like it was a written script by somebody who was trying to cover everything they told the public. And I'm not saying that that's what it is. That's just what it seemed like to me. My love, it sounded like a little Shakespeare play. My love, here, let me text you every single thing that happened. So it just doesn't. Squad car. Yeah. A 22-year-old was calling it a squad car. A 22-year-old was telling them about the towel wrapped around the gun. Maybe he was playing a game to say, I don't know, but to act like that's not, there's something about that that's not adding up. Whether he really wrote it to cover for other people, whether he didn't write it, I don't know. It's not my responsibility to figure it out, but I would just say, I don't buy that. He's explaining that he's waiting around a crime scene to pick up the towel that they just so happen to get the DNA footage on it. Like he wouldn't, he's got to specify that to his significant other. He can't just say, yo, I got to pick up the gun. I got to pick up the gun and the towel. Maybe he just wanted to write every single thing they said about him in text. That's possible. I just can't, to me, it's just shocking. Like if, not saying they did, but if that was somehow planted, it's shocking to me that they didn't do a better job with that. And if it's real, it's shocking to me that anybody talks like that. But it's possible. People are weird. It just doesn't seem believable. And then this Turning Point guy comes out and he's like, no, let me explain. There was no exit wound. That's a lie. It was a miracle. His bone density was like Superman. He's the Man of Steel. If I'm a spokesperson, there's no way I'm going to post that and be like, oh yeah, this is going to really convince people. But if that's what the surgeon told him, then that's what they told him. It's not his fault. He listened to the surgeon. That's what they said. Okay. It's possible. So I don't know. Let me read a few. And then there's this new, I'm going to just read this real quick. Post World War I rifle, no evidence. This is a new thing in the New York Post right now. Hold on one second. I'm trying to find the maybe untraceable. Okay. It's an AOL article. How do I get to the original New York Post one? Hold on. Sorry about this. Hold on. I'm trying to find this Post article that somebody, because it's on AOL now, but I'm trying to find it. Hold on. Look up the New York Post. Hold on one second, folks. I just want to make sure this is, yeah. Okay. It is real. So this is ready. I'm just going to read this and you could look it up yourself. This is on New York Post. This came out September 20th, 2025. The gun that killed Charlie Kirk is a World War I era rifle that may be untraceable. The gun Tyler Robinson allegedly used to kill Charlie Kirk was so old that it predated serial number mandates, making the weapon impossible to track. The Mauser model rifle, described in text by Robinson as Grandpa's rifle, is a decades-old German-made gun used in both World Wars and bought on the market before a law created the assassination of former President JFK mandated weapons etched to unique traceable numbers. So he just so happened to use a rifle that is not traceable based on the serial code. Let me see real quick because I want to see if they found DNA. Did they find Tyler Robinson's DNA on the gun or just the towel? Let's see. They found Tyler Robinson's DNA on both the gun, specifically the trigger and the towel. Let's see. By September 16th, Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray announced formal charges against Robinson, stating that the forensic testing had identified his DNA on the rifle's trigger. Court documents also linked his DNA to the rifle's cartridges and the towel. Okay, so they did. For a while, they said they were testing the gun. So they said they found it on the rifle as well as the towel, but it can't be traced. It's possible. I don't know. Someone said, why did TPUSA wait only until Candace put pressure to release it? It's very sus. Well, I mean, Candace is definitely probably the main person like that's getting a lot of views, but a lot of people were talking about it. But if you want to give her credit for that, I would say it just, when a theory becomes very mainstream, people, I guess, want to tell you what they know. So, you know, I see it from both sides. I get that they don't have to tell you that the bullet was lodged in Charlie because it's graphic and, you know, someone could say it's not your business. But also, if they want to provide more evidence and let you know, because, you know, before he said that, and I don't know, some people are talking about like HIPAA laws and something. I don't know what HIPAA laws are, but is the surgeon allowed to tell him that? I guess, you know, I don't know the laws around it. So the surgeon told him that, right? Before that, there were no reports that I saw about where the bullet went. And even to this day, like when I looked it up, a lot of people are saying it hit his chest and popped up. Other people are just saying it went straight in. So, you know, once again, I don't know, but I asked AI, like, what is the main narrative around how Charlie got shot? Like, did he get shot in the neck or did he get shot in the chest plate and it bounced up? And once again, AI is not the be all end all, but it's searching the internet for every article and just saying what the mainstream narrative is. AI told me that it hit his chest plate, it bounced up. Then the Turning Point guy said it did it. He never mentioned that. He said it went into his neck and just hit his bone or something and didn't come out the back. And it would, like, he was suggesting essentially that if it would have came out the back, it would have hurt other people. So Charlie, it's like a miracle, you know, that he's the Man of Steel and that, you know, the bullet didn't come out. So even among mainstream reporting, I think a lot of mainstream reports were saying that it hit his chest plate. Some were saying it hit his neck. Nobody knew where the bullet went because people thought, well, if it didn't hit his chest plate or it hit his neck or something, then like it would have came out the back maybe. And then people are speculating he got shot from the right. You know, there's all sorts of like opinions around this and people speculating, but it doesn't, you know, I guess Tyler is providing more, or not Tyler, whatever his name is. I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm getting his name wrong. I think it's Andrew, but whatever the guy's name is, he's providing more context. Yes, it's because Candace and other people ask questions about it, but as much as I can understand people saying, well, we don't want to talk about this because it's very private to us or it's deep to us, people need to understand that Charlie Kirk was like a Trump level Republican figure and there's no good information out there yet. So the more you could provide, the better it is for people. However, with this one, the more they provided, the more people question. So I don't even know if it helped their cause. I think the more people ask questions, the more they almost have to say something about it. You know, you could view it as, oh, that's so bad that his friends have to speak up. And I get that narrative. Like, I get if you don't want to talk about it, I guess, you know, it's hard for me to put myself in their friend's shoes. But let's just say if I had a friend that was like a political Charlie Kirk level and he got killed in the way he did, I feel like I would understand why people would want more information because it's just the information right now is not super, you know, like believable, I guess I would say. I don't know if that's the right word. So I get why they'd say that, but it doesn't make sense to me that they don't understand why people might want to know. And they don't have to say anything about it, but Do they think that everything that's been told is like the most believable thing of all time? Everyone on his team is like, oh yeah, we believe. I highly doubt everyone around Charlie Kirk 100% thinks this mystery is solved. Some might, but some don't. So I don't know why people are doing what they're doing or saying what they're saying, but they have a right to keep it to themselves, and the public has a right to want to know. Did JFK's family say that? I don't know. I wasn't alive then. I don't think. No, I definitely wasn't alive then. I was trying to think of the year. Sorry, but like, did JFK's family say don't ask questions about this for our family? Maybe they did, and maybe people still ask questions. I don't know. Isn't that when they started using the term conspiracy theory a lot? Clearly, there was a conspiracy there. Clearly, the guy who said he was a patsy was killed by someone else. So, out of respect for JFK, no one should ask what happened. Does anyone believe that? So now with Charlie, is that the same thing? No one should ask a question because Charlie died, and it's disrespectful to ask questions. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me, but I'm not his family, so. Someone said, doctor said it happens when the spinal cord is hit. Listen, anything is possible. I just understand why people are underwhelmed. That's all I'll say. And I'm not going to be shamed into. Some people will say, "Oh, why are you saying this or doing this?" I don't know. I feel like Charlie's a very newsworthy person. And just like the Epstein files, when Trump didn't want to talk about them anymore, everybody said, "Why are you still talking about the Epstein files? Why are you still talking?" Trump said not to talk about the Epstein files. I don't care. I don't know. Because Trump doesn't want to talk about him now. Do you want me to be cat turd or something? I just got to do whatever. Even cat turd doesn't even trust Trump anymore. I mean, he probably does, but he's like, I want Pam Bondi to be fired. Yesterday, Trump said Pam Bondi's doing a great job on his True Social. So how come cat turd's questioning Donald Trump, even though he's a big fan? Because he doesn't agree with him on that. He wants Pam Bondi fired. Trump doesn't. Does cat turd need to shut up about it? No, he's an American. He could say whatever he wants. So, that's how I think about this situation. To me, I think it would be more disrespectful to just completely move on and be like, Charlie, yeah, it's over. I don't know. I'm kind of not over it. And I wasn't even friends with Charlie. I didn't even know Charlie like that, but I'm not over the fact that somebody killed someone who was going to be the president of my country. I'm kind of not over the fact that somebody murdered a guy who is one of the top 5 most important figures, love him or hate him, on the right wing. To me, it's not respectful to his legacy to just be like, let's just all pretend like we knew exactly what Charlie thought and let's argue over his legacy while we don't even solve his murder mystery. Like, I don't know. To me, that's not respectful. And Candace feels that way in her own way. But once again, and I'm not saying this for any other reason than I'm just being myself. Candace knew Charlie and picks the battle she picks. I'm not Candace. I didn't pick a battle with Macron. I didn't pick a battle with Bill Ackman. I don't know these people. I don't know who went to what. Like, this is beyond my understanding. Candace is picking the battles that she feels like she should pick, and she has to deal with that. Like, I don't know who went to what meeting or whatever or what they said. How am I supposed to know? I didn't know Charlie Kirk. I don't know what he was talking about behind the scenes. I didn't know him. She does. She says she does. Tucker says he knew that Charlie felt certain ways, and then other people are saying he didn't. They can argue over that because they actually knew Charlie Kirk. I didn't know him, so I can't come from that angle. If Charlie Kirk was my best friend and I texted him and called him, then maybe I would do that. I'm not trying to be rude to them. I'm just saying then I would be like, I know what Charlie Kirk texted me. I know what he was talking about. I have no idea. I didn't know Charlie. So all I could do is publicly bring in the information that's available and speak about it. Like, I don't have a story of what Charlie told me behind the scenes because he never told me anything. But I think it's natural for someone that knew him to want to know more about what happened. Tony said, anyone who's over this issue already is a complete blank tard. I'm not over it. I'm not over the fact that he died. I'm not over the evidence given. I want to see what else comes out. To me, without disrespectfully comparing him to like OJ Simpson or anything, I want this court case to be on the level of an OJ Simpson. Like Charlie Kirk was that big of a deal. They assassinated a future president. This should not be walked over. Every aspect of this court case should be in the news, and it's a bigger deal than Amber Heard and, you know, Johnny Depp. So yeah, I'm not going to be over it for a while, and I'm not going to ignore it. I want to see what this Tyler Robinson says when he gets to speak to the camera. I want to hear if he says he did it or didn't do it. I want to hear everything. And I don't want it to just go away. So I know, you know, some people, and I understand because I post a lot on Facebook. So people are like, well, you're just posting about Charlie Kirk. I post about whatever I want to post about every day. But if some people want the Charlie stuff to completely go away, I can't say I'm one of those people, because I think his legacy should be remembered. I hope his clips keep going viral. I hope whoever did it realizes that it's just going to escalate his opinions and stuff. Like, you know, making someone into that is not a way to stop their beliefs. But also, I just want to know, I want to see what Kash Patel says next. Even if I'd never posted on the internet, I would be paying attention to see what they're saying, because I don't want to stop thinking about this personally. Someone said it's very suspicious Candace doesn't care about Obama's blank, Michelle Obama, Michael Obama's blank. Well, I'm not going to talk about that, I don't think. Is it suspicious if I don't make a 7-part documentary on Michelle Obama too, or no? Do I get a pass on that? It's not my area of expertise, nor do I want it to be, but if you want to believe things, it's on you. Someone said MAGA couldn't even find Venezuela on a map. They're not bright people. Some probably could, some probably couldn't, but it's definitely in South America. I think most people would know that. All right, I'll read a few more and then we'll wrap this up. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And these are my opinions. I mean, let me know what you guys think, and we'll keep it moving. Someone said they wrapped up the entire scene immediately. That a lot of things look weird, but at the same time, I would say just look into why they did it and who did it and what they say, you know, because maybe they provide an explanation that you believe, maybe you don't. There's a lot of weird things about that. And I will say that a lot of things are not adding up. The more people look at it, the more they're talking about it. And I want to see video of that roof. To me, that's the biggest thing that they don't have that would provide a lot of context. Where's the video of the guy on the roof? There has to be video. I mean, I could re-upload it for you guys when he walks in, but there's hundreds of people sitting from an angle that would have been able to, if they were filming Charlie asking questions or filming the crowd, they would have got that angle. Let me see if I still have it. I don't. I guess I deleted all my older videos, but they show him walking in, and someone has to have that footage. Where's the footage of the guy on the roof shooting? Because also, I understand that the best they have is the Tyler Robinson thing, right? They think he jumped off the roof. They think he dropped his thing and texted all these things. Sure. 100% get it. I get it. But if you had video of him shooting on the roof, then that would be a lot more believable. And it would go from a pretty good case to a cut and dry case. There he is. There's a video of him on the roof. It's Tyler Robinson. He shot the gun. We got him. Without that, it's just not as good of a case. So what if they had video footage of that roof and he wasn't there or he wasn't shooting it? I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but it's like the video footage of the roof is the biggest puzzle piece they're missing. And I'm just curious why that hasn't come out yet, or who has it on their phone. You know, I don't believe that no one has it. Don't believe that for a second. Someone said the parking deck camera. Let me see. The parking deck camera they showed of the FBI cuts off while he's running to get off the roof. Why not show him there? Yeah, people pointed that out, but I gotta like look at it and think about it because I haven't fully processed what people are saying there. I don't know why was there time missing from the Epstein thing? Here's a bunch of Epstein footage with a couple minutes missing. Why? The tape went out during those times. Like I don't get it. So yeah, there has to be more footage for sure. It has to be. Let me look up real quick. I'm just curious, like what they're saying. Is there currently any footage of the shooter Tyler Robinson in the act of shooting on the roof? Did anyone get that angle? Let's see what it's saying. No, there is no publicly available footage showing Tyler Robinson in the act of firing the shot on the rooftop of the Lucy Center building. Official surveillance videos released by the FBI in Utah. Are they saying someone has that footage? And are they saying they'll release it? No official statements confirm that anyone has footage explicitly showing Tyler Robinson firing a shot from the rooftop. Authorities, including FBI and Orem Police Department, have not publicly acknowledged the existence of such specific footage. And like I said, I asked them earlier, I put in all the info and I said, considering how many people were there, the massive crowds, the cameras from all angles, like, you know, what are the chances? I asked just the AI, I was like, what are the chances that nobody got that footage? And they were like, near zero. There's a near 0% chance. Someone said, AI. Yeah, well, I don't sit and ask AI about my life and philosophy and spirituality or anything. But as far as trying to use it as a research tool, like you could say, hey, give me 10 news articles that have this headline or talk about this, and it could find them for you. It's not 100% accurate, but it's just a good research tool. You know, it could scan the entire internet. It could scan every article in a second and what the FBI and the police department said, and it could tell you like, yeah, they said this or they said that. So I'm not asking you to trust AI. It's just a better research tool than spending 5 minutes trying to go to every news article to see what the FBI said. Let's see. Someone said, so what is the official story about the bullet? Did they say he used a type of bullet that was different from a normal 30-06 bullet, and that's why it acted strange on impact, not going through neck? Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the official narrative is it was that bullet, but it's a miracle. He's the man of steel, and his bone density is so healthy that it just it's a miracle that it didn't go through him to hit another person. That's what TPUSA spokesperson said, that they talked to the surgeon. And here's what I would say too. And I don't know what the FBI or the police should do. I have no idea or what they're supposed to do, but this is just my friendly advice as far as like PR. If they had said nothing about that and it took like the Turning Point spokesperson to say that, shouldn't Kash Patel have said that? You know, maybe not. Maybe he's not supposed to. But if people are wondering if there's an exit wound or this or that, like, should he come out and say, no, listen, we found the bullet like inside? I don't know. Is he supposed to say that, or is he just supposed to say nothing? Are you just supposed to like believe what they're saying? They never said anything about it, I don't think, before that. And then once the spokesperson came out, this is a Turning Point spokesperson talking to a surgeon, you know, outside of what the police or the FBI told anyone. I don't know. Did I watch the Erica speech and casket footage yet? Too sad to watch. I didn't. I guess it's just like, yeah, I don't know. No disrespect to her because it's sad, but no, I just don't. Like, what do you want me to watch it for? You want me to watch it and be skeptical of it or something? You want me to watch it and be sad and passionate? I guess I don't. I just don't want to watch it. I don't know. You know, I don't get, like, what do you want me to watch it for? Let me see. Someone said I don't trust Nick over what Candace is saying. No comment on that, really. I guess I shouldn't say no comment because I'm going to comment. Nick and Candace and Tucker, they all don't like each other, or Tucker and Candace don't like Nick. Nick doesn't like Candace, and now that Candace is asking questions, Nick's saying it's ridiculous to think that or something, or I don't really know what he's saying. But as far as all the information's out there, and you can think what you want and question what you want and not question what you want, like I don't need anybody to tell me what to and to not question. It's not going to affect what I think. I don't look, no offense, but I don't look to Candace or Nick or Tucker as a guide of what I should and shouldn't think. I look to them as news analysts who say stuff, and then I have the intellectual capacity and the spirit to agree and to disagree. And with all of them, I've agreed on some stuff, and with all of them, I've disagreed on some stuff. So, as far as what he's saying, I can't say I saw the full context. But I'm sure it's out there for you to agree or disagree. Some people like it, some people don't. It's not going to change what I think based on what someone tells me to think about what someone else is saying. Cause I don't know, I didn't watch the full Nick thing about what he said about Candace and what he thinks it is or it isn't. And I've watched a few of Candace's full videos. So, I would have to watch Nick's full video to see if I agreed with what he said about Candace. From the clips that I saw, it didn't seem like it reflected what Candace was actually saying and doing. However, I didn't watch the full context, so maybe it was. So I guess when Candace is doing a lot, but at the same time, she's regardless of what people think that she's saying, she's going and finding pictures of this guy at Dairy Queen. Once again, are those pictures real? I don't know. Either they're real and Candace is the greatest investigator on planet Earth, or they're not, and she made a huge mistake. I would love for someone to figure out if they're real or not. If they're real, regardless of what anyone says about Candace, she's doing better investigation than anyone else. If they're not real, she just made a huge, huge mistake and, just was wrong. But no one has proved, at least to my knowledge, that it is or isn't real. So why is nobody talking about that? And I'm not saying that's Nick's role, because maybe he doesn't know about that or don't want to talk about that. But that's what matters to me, not his opinion about what she said or his framing of what she's saying. Like, what matters is the actual situation to me. That's what matters, not everybody's opinion about everybody else. So I want to get to the core of that. Someone said people in Oren gave Candace the photos. I understand, but I guess my question is, how did Candace verify them? And why is nobody questioning them? In the sense of everybody that's talking about Candace isn't talking about what she's saying. They're talking about some hypothetical thing that they think she's saying, or, and it's getting very sloppy in a way, because people are having two conversations at the same time, right? They're having who killed Charlie Kirk, and then they're having a fight over his legacy of who he was. Candace and Tucker knew Charlie, and so did other people. So there's certain people with knowledge of Charlie Kirk fighting over his legacy because they want, Tucker came out and he said that he didn't like Netanyahu. That's what Tucker said about Charlie. How am I supposed to know? I didn't know Charlie Kirk. Tucker says he did. So Tucker's having a fight over his legacy with people that are pro-Israel, and so is Megyn Kelly to some extent, and everyone's getting mad at each other. But then a lot of people online are saying, well, Tucker's saying this. Well, Candace is saying this. In some cases, they are saying a lot, but in other cases, I think people are misconstruing the fight over the legacy versus trying to figure out who did it. Everyone's saying everything, so that you're going to find somebody online that's saying what you think they're saying. But when it comes to Tucker, I haven't even heard him question the narrative. He is just talking about Charlie's legacy. Yet there's thousands of people online saying that he's talking about who killed Charlie Kirk, when the reality is Tucker is just saying what he knew about Charlie, or what he's claiming to know about Charlie. Candace is doing both at the same time. So it's obvious why people are, misconstruing what Candace said, because half of the time she's fighting over Charlie's legacy, but the other half she's trying to solve the mystery. So people are saying that, well, because she's saying this and because she's saying that about this. But I've watched her videos. I don't know that that's the message that I was getting. I'm just getting the message that she knew Charlie. She really wants to fight over his legacy, but at the same time, she wants to solve the mystery of his murder. You said I haven't watched her because I didn't see what she said. You're not listening to what I'm saying, though. I'm just saying, if anybody, you're acting as if I'm completely questioning everything that Candace is doing in the worst way. And maybe you're not, but what I'm trying to say is this. She provided a picture. Nobody that's mad at Candace is arguing the picture provided. If, once again, nobody's like, there has been, according to my knowledge, no FBI or police statement like, hey, that is the right picture, or that's the wrong picture. So I think that it's someone in the investigation's responsibility at some point to speak on that picture. And these are the two options, regardless of what Candace said or didn't say about the picture. If it's real, once again, and Candace beat the FBI and the authorities to this picture weeks before, then Candace is the greatest reporter in America, and she's the greatest investigative journalist, and she's like Sherlock Holmes. If it's wrong, it's a huge mistake. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying nobody questioning Candace, it seems that I don't know if it's right or wrong. How am I supposed to know? But what if the FBI comes out and the the police come out and they say, no, that is footage of Tyler Robinson in a Dairy Queen. The same way that they had footage of Luigi or whatever, or they said they found him at a McDonald's or where did they find Luigi Mangione? They found him somewhere with a manifesto on him at some food place. It's like, you know what I'm saying? You're acting like I'm fully questioning Candace. I'm just telling you, I don't know for sure. What I am saying is, let's see in a week, someone has to make a statement about that picture. Either she's the greatest investigator in the country, or she made a mistake. And if it turns out to be true, now you have to ask yourself, why is Candace Owens doing more than everyone else? Why is she finding out stuff that no one else is finding? Well, because she's trying to find it out. And a lot of people are not trying. They're trying to stop people from finding stuff out. You understand what I'm saying? So time will tell. I'm not going to make a claim, but it looked real to me. But we're living in the era of AI, and you know what I'm saying? Like, everything is very easy to manipulate. So I need context of, they need to talk to the Dairy Queen, and that, I guess people send her info. Linda, I like Candace. I'm not sitting here to make you, I'm just saying, like, I could send her info. Anyone could send her info. I understand that. But just because people send you info doesn't mean it's true. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I want to see if they make a statement about that picture. Is that okay with you or no? Do I have to watch her and believe everything? I don't watch her and not believe everything she says. I think a lot of what she's saying is valid. I'm just saying that's the process that I'm going through. I don't just watch it and be like, oh, it must be 100% real because she posted it. You could do that. And, it might work out because Candace is pretty shrewd. But I'm just letting you know. I want to see what the FBI says about it. I want to see what the police say about it. I want to say what the Dairy Queen says about it. I want to see all that. Is that fair or no? Do I have to just rush to conclusions? You can. I don't care. I feel like if I didn't have a show where I had to talk, I might be like, yeah, I believe that picture, but something tells me I still would be a little patient because who knows, I don't know. People are arguing about Nick in the comments. I mean, I think the best you could be is watching other people, but not being controlled by them. Can you watch Nick, Candace, Tucker, other people, mainstream media, but not completely get all your views from them? Or do you want someone that gives you all of their views? For example, I'm not Tucker. I'm not Candace. I've given dozens of examples of things that they're saying, but I'm not saying because I don't know Charlie. But with Nick, me and Nick think, I'll give you one example. We think very differently about health. I'm very skeptical of big pharma. I feel like my reporting during COVID was really accurate. He wasn't doing that as much because he's more like, I don't, he doesn't work out that much. He's not into like gym bro science. I've seen clips of him where he's just like, he kind of makes fun of people who question all that stuff. It doesn't mean he has no value or I hate him or anything. It's just we're different. I know we're different people in that. So when I watch him and he says stuff I disagree with, I guess I would never watch. I don't watch him that much, but if I do, it's not like I watch it and think like, wow, these are all my beliefs, because they're not, So once again, regardless of what Candace says about him or what he says about Candace or what he says about what Candace said or what Tucker says about this, to me, what matters is the reality of the situation, not what someone is saying. There's things that Candace says about him that I'm like, why? And then there's things that he's saying about her that I'm like, I don't know about that. But they're all entitled to do that. I guess, thank you, Italian Goddess. I appreciate it. As a reporter, everyone's responsible to be as accurate as they can be and be as truthful as they can be. If other reporters feel like other reporters are being inaccurate, they get to complain about it. But that's on you to decide whether you agree or disagree with it. What they say about each other has no impact, I guess, on my opinions or what I think's going on, because I don't need to hear necessarily what everyone thinks about each other in order to make an opinion. I'm listening to what the official narrative is. I don't personally buy it. And that could mean a million different things. And I'm not going to rush to conclusions of what that means, but I don't believe that there's no video footage of this. I don't believe the text messages. I don't know what to think about them saying it's a miracle bone density situation, because that also just doesn't sound like the greatest explanation, But I can be patient, and other people are not patient. I would say Candace is not trying to be patient. Candace is trying to solve the mystery herself. And millions of people like it because they're underwhelmed with what the FBI is doing. Like Candace is essentially trying to like out FBI the FBI. She's like, I'm not waiting. I'm not patient. I'm going to go solve the mystery on my own. And now it becomes a situation of millions of people in the world watching Candace being like, can she solve this mystery on her own? And I have to be honest, I don't know. Like I'm not going to rule Candace Owens out, just like I'm not ruling out the picture, but like I'm watching too. Is she going to solve the mystery or is she not? That's what makes Candace Owens so exciting. Am I mad that she's trying? Personally, no, I'm not. Have I talked to other people that are upset that she's doing too much? Yeah, I have. Some people don't like what she's doing. Me personally, I'm just watching, it's a spectacle. Not that I like trying to like downplay it, but it's like, am I going to doubt her? No. Would I be shocked if she can't get to the bottom of it? Also, no. But she's trying. So what else am I supposed to do except see if she can figure it out? I think that's what millions of people are doing. They're trying to see if she can figure it out. And some people don't like that she's trying to figure it out. And some people don't like certain things she's saying. Some people are exaggerating about certain things she's saying, but she's doing like 50 things at once. It's very interesting, to say the least. She's in a lawsuit with the president of France's wife because she says she has a ding dong. Am I not supposed to be interested in that? She beefs with celebrities all the time and somehow never is remotely affected by it. Like Candace is like TMZ now, and she like not goes after, but like reports about like mainstream, like Blake Lively stuff. And a lot of women like that. And some men like it too. I don't fully understand it, but apparently a lot of women that I know are like super enthralled with that. Candace says she knows what he was doing, and she said that he was being pressured at some sort of meeting, and then she publicly says something about it, and then they all come out with statements like Seth Dillon and Bill Ackman. Then she's trying to solve the mystery. Like how can I not want to watch and see where she goes with it? So I get why some people might say she's doing too much, but for me, I guess my question is, are you going to investigate this situation or just talk about people who are? because you can. I'm talking about it, but I just try to do so with grace and humbleness, because it's like I can't definitively just talk bad about Candace and be like, she's so wrong, this and that. Time will tell. Time will tell if the picture she got is right. If that Dairy Queen picture is true, dude, she deserves an award for investigative journalism if that picture's right. And if it's not, it's a big mess up. Someone said you're in love. Has nothing to do with love or even Candace's gender. It's just the reality of the situation. Like, she's doing very interesting work. She's going super deep on it. And it seems to me like on all sides, the people, like, there's what she's saying and then what everyone else is saying she's saying. I've listened to what she's saying. I don't need to listen to someone else about what they're saying she's saying, because I can hear what she's saying for myself. It's like when Trump used to talk and the liberal media would be like, well, he's saying this. No, that's what you're saying he's saying. I listened to the full speech. I know what he's saying. Doesn't mean I agree with it all, but I don't need like CNN to tell me what Trump said. I'll just listen to it myself. And that's what I implore everyone to do on every topic. Like, you know, Nick and Candace and Nick have done it to each other. Candace tries to say Nick's this, Nick tries, like, they're like beefing, you know? So they're gonna like talk about each other. That's on them, you know? I don't need Candace to tell me what Nick says. I don't need Nick to tell me what Candace says. I'll listen to both of them when it crosses my feed or piques my interest. But, you know, I think at a certain point, everyone should be able to come to their own conclusions. I don't know. Someone said Nick is 10 years ahead on all of them. I think on some topics, Nick was 10 years ahead of them. But I think on like pharmaceutical topics, Candace was 10 years ahead of Tucker and Nick on those topics, like her vaccine documentary. I think they both have been ahead on certain narratives, and on certain things, not so much. So, you know, no disrespect to either of them, but I think what Candace talked about the pharmaceutical industry, to me, I agree, you know, and some people don't care about the pharmaceutical industry. I'm not claiming to be ahead of anyone I mean, you could just look at my videos and what I was talking about. There's certain topics it took me a while to figure out. There's other topics that I was pretty early on, but there's always going to be someone earlier, I'm sure. You said she's silent on Vance and Teal. I'm not here to ask you to believe everything Candace says or look to her for advice. If she's not providing journalism that you want her to provide, or, you know, that seems like it's not enough for what you want to hear, then listen to someone else. I don't care. I'm not a PR team for Candace. Like I just told you, there's things that I would and wouldn't do that she's doing. So I'm not here to tell you that she's your be all end all. It's like, if she's not talking enough about Peter Thiel or something, and you want someone else that you trust more, then that's like, you are yourself. You could trust who you want, not trust who you want, listen to who you want. That's not my goal here, to tell people to like go to someone as their one-stop shop. But anyway, I'm going to take off and do some stuff, but I think she has talked about Teal a little bit too, but maybe Nick did earlier. I'm sure he did. Whitney Webb has talked about it for years. A lot of people pointed it out earlier. Not that I'm poo-pooing Candace on. I'm just saying, like, you could point to a lot of people who say more and less about a lot of topics, but there's also going to be topics like pharmaceuticals that Candace has covered more than other people. So this is the way I look at it. And maybe, certain people, it's up to your discernment and your spirit to figure out, like, do I trust this person or do I not trust this person? Do I think that their value outweighs what I don't like about them, or do I not? And that's, God gave you a mind and a soul and discernment to figure out who you trust and who you don't. That's on you. I feel like I don't talk to my audience in a way where like they can't figure that out on their own. So if you want to trust or not trust someone, that's on you. And if you want to think that they're playing some sort of game, I get why you would think that, because this industry is full with a lot of people playing a lot of games. But for me, and I'll just end on this note, I look at everyone, is there value there that I could take from it, or is there not? Some people, they're constantly lying and they're never providing value. These are the people that I don't listen to. It's like they're not providing any sort of great value that makes me be like, oh, they're teaching me things I didn't know, or oh, they're really pushing back against this narrative. And it feels so much like a psyop where instead of actually teaching me something, they're just telling me that all the people that are teaching me stuff are bad people. Like, don't listen to him. Don't listen to her. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to that. But what are you doing? You're not doing anything worth listening to me. Like, where's your podcast? Tucker's a great example because all of Tucker's friends in the industry that are saying he's going too far now, Tucker is willing to have them on the show. If you think he's going so far and he's so bad, and Tucker is willing to have you on the show, why not do it? Why not go on and I would love the opportunity of somebody that I thought was being super fake, if they would let me on their podcast and just have a conversation about it. That would be awesome. They don't have to, but it's if they did, I probably wouldn't turn it down. But all these people that want me to not listen to what Tucker's saying, first of all, I don't need Tucker to tell me everything. I listen to his guests sometimes, they're interesting, but it's not changing my life. But they never want to talk to him. So that's, for me, it's if Tucker has value because he's interviewing foreign leaders and he's got interesting people on his thing, and the people telling me not to listen to him have no value, and then people are beefing with each other, but I determine that they have enough value that I still want to listen to them, it's all on me. But that's the decision I make. And I'm sure everybody has a similar process where it's is there more value than negativity, or is there more value than not value? If there is, then these people to me are worth listening to in some form. And if there's not, then I just leave it alone. There's 20 people I could name that I just don't trust. There's nothing I want to hear from them. I'll give you an example. James Lindsay, I never really listened to him because I think he got famous from writing some paper and he was on Rogan. I never, ever listened to him. I never cared about him, but he started catching my attention when he tried to say that anybody talking about Israel or stuff was the woke right and this and that. I don't know who James Lindsay is. I don't know what game he's playing, but there's so little value there and there's so much weirdness that I would never listen to this guy again. He's mad at Matt Walsh. He's mad, everybody that actually is somewhat interesting on some topics, he's beefing with. He's very strange to me. So it's I look at someone like him and there's nothing there that piques my interest whatsoever. All the people he's mad at, even Matt Walsh, Matt Walsh isn't even against him, but he somehow picks a fight with Matt Walsh. It's anyone that's not as weird as him, he just freaks out about. These are people that I just completely ignore, So that's all I'm saying. I hope it won't get misconstrued. I hope people don't take this the wrong way, but that's how I think about stuff. And, with all of this going on, just be honest with yourself. That's all you really can do. There's going to be a lot of good theories. There's going to be a lot of bad theories. There's going to be a lot more evidence that probably comes out to help people make a decision. Patience is always okay, especially when you're just consuming information. You don't have to make an opinion or something. So that's kind of how I see it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Certainly, I could let you know I will not be, this is not where I'm going to get my information. I could tell you that for sure.
Disinformation expert Mike Rothschild and former FBI and CIA Special Agent Tracy Walder. Great to have you both here. Mike, how do these spread? And by the way, why are we seeing so many anti-Semitic conspiracy theories right now?
I can't say a disinformation expert named Rothschild is going to be my go-to for the truth, but let's hear him out. Mr. Rothschild, just do me one favor. If you want me to believe you, don't say that every conspiracy theory has anti-Semitism, because it's just going to come across kind of weird. Just don't say that.
Well, as I wrote about in one of my books, all conspiracy theories essentially have a hint of anti-Semitism, and all anti-Semitism is based around conspiracy theories.
Darn it. He said that. So now I can't trust him. But anyway, that's not going to be my go-to. Someone like that, I'm not trying to listen to that guy tell me what is and what isn't true. That's never going to be content that appeals to me. And I would be shocked if a single person watched this video and was like, yeah, that makes total sense. Even the most pro-Israel, Christian boomer, I don't think that they think every conspiracy theory is anti-Semitic, because I'm sure everyone believes some conspiracy theory, and probably the ones they believe have nothing to do with that. Yet you're telling them that every single one has something to do with that, which is just a crazy strategy. But, to each their own. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Who out of everybody doing videos right now, who are you feeling? Who are you not feeling? And I guess this is my final thoughts just to wrap it up. I am fully compassionate, sympathetic, and empathetic, or whichever word is actually the right one to use, with family, friends, people who work there. Like it's a difficult, anybody that was standing there in this, and like it's a horrific tragedy, obviously, but also it's got to be difficult to be so close to Charlie and have to deal with everything going on. But whether you were close to Charlie in proximity during that event or you were close to Charlie, personally, it would be shocking to me if people couldn't understand why people were asking questions. And it would be shocking to me if people were completely satisfied so far with all the evidence given. And I don't understand how someone on the level of a Trump or a JFK, and I'm giving Charlie a lot of praise right now, and I mean this. I mean, even though I didn't agree with Charlie on everything, I never said he wasn't a huge figure. I never said he wasn't extremely powerful. Like, name a Republican. The only Republican that might be just as powerful as Charlie might be like a JD Vance, because he might be the next president, or maybe like the Speaker of the House. But in fame level, Charlie was way bigger than them. Charlie, I mean, maybe not Vance, but pretty close. I mean, like he's probably going to be a future president. If he ever became a politician, he would become the most powerful one. So him getting killed, it doesn't make you a bad person. Even if you think some people are bad faith actors asking questions, there's no way you could say it makes you a bad person asking questions about this, because it would be like if the Trump shooting, went further, like Trump lived. So people didn't really think about it that much after, because they're like, oh, it was this lone shooter, this and that. Was it? I mean, does the biggest Trump supporter in the chat that doesn't want to question anything with Charlie, do you think that was just a lone shooter that shot Trump in the ear? If you believe it, like, do you think that was just some random guy? You could think that, but it wouldn't make you a bad person if you thought that maybe somebody paid that guy that didn't like Republicans or something. Like, that wouldn't make you a bad person. That's totally normal to think that when the most powerful person in America gets shot at. It's totally okay to ask questions. And with Charlie, it would be downplaying his power level to just assume that this guy was working alone necessarily. Like, how do you know? How do you know he wasn't connected to other radicals? How do you know he wasn't connected to some sort of extremist organization? Even if you believe all the information now, like, how do you know for sure that there wasn't more people in this? How would you not want to? I get that some people are asking the wrong questions, but like, Charlie was really important. So yes, just like it could have been a lone person, it also could have been not that, and I think anybody from any angle could understand that. And anybody that doesn't understand that is not being honest or genuine, because it's just like, how could you not understand that? Like, Charlie, some people think that the best way to honor Charlie is to figure out what happened to him. And the people that just trust the government to figure it out doesn't make sense to me. With that being said, I also want to just be fair and say, I get that some people are doing too much in some ways, where like they're asking, I guess, the wrong questions, or they're providing the wrong narratives that are annoying some people. Like, I get that. I guess just, I think the best way to shut down bad theories and bad opinions would be to just show real stuff, like not being like, stop asking questions and stop doing conspiracy theories, more just providing a narrative that makes more sense. And once again, I'll say this, that Turning Point guy who tweeted about the Man of Steel and the bone density, and like, I'm glad he tweeted that, because if that's what the surgeon told him, he's doing a great act to just, be more transparent than apparently the investigators are. So I have nothing but love for this guy. But at the same time, like, do you really think that's going to come out and provide like more understanding? And I'm not, like I said, I'm just trying to be very clear. I'm sorry that I'm being this way in this live stream, but I'm just trying to like cover all my bases and be really honest and clear. I'm glad he put that out, and I'm glad that that's the information he was given from the surgeon. And if it's true, it's true. But it's just like, there's no way you could think that that's going to go out and just be like, yeah, this will really shut down opinions. Like, it's not. So I guess if you're close to Charlie and you work there or something, although it's incredibly unfortunate in many ways, like you almost have to understand that Republicans are not just people, and even Charlie's followers, these are not just people that just sit and believe official narratives and they're like, oh yeah, case closed. These are people that were locked in their houses during COVID. These are people that disagree with Trump on Operation Warp Speed. These are people that want the Epstein files. Like, that's who Charlie's audience is. Maybe not all of them, but his audience is not like the rollover, believe everything that we've ever heard, and, now it's over, stop asking questions crowd. So once again, just similar to other topics, if one side's asking a lot of questions, and in some cases the wrong questions or too many questions, and then the other side doesn't seem to be asking any question, people are gradually going to go to the side asking questions, because nobody wants to hear somebody say, stop asking questions. Literally, that's not who Republicans are. Maybe 20 years ago, but under Trump, every Republican is a conspiracy theorist, because they believe that Democrats are running a conspiracy. They believe that COVID lockdown was some sort of a conspiracy. They believe that Big Pharma is doing conspiracy. Every Republican is a conspiracy theorist, and every Republican believes some sort of conspiracy. They just believe certain ones. So if you're trying to gain a Republican audience at this point, you don't have to be the biggest conspiracy theorist, but you can't sound like a liberal and just be like, how come you guys are asking questions? Why do you think Trump got elected? Trump got elected because people were asking questions. People didn't believe the left. People didn't believe the right. People didn't believe the Epstein cover-up. People didn't believe the COVID mandates. That's why Donald Trump got elected, because the most of America doesn't trust the media. Most of America doesn't trust the government. That's why Trump won. So how are you going to talk to Trump supporters and be like, yeah, you guys, the best way to honor this guy is to just stop asking questions? Yeah, it's not going to work. You got to lean into the truth, but not poo-poo everyone asking everything. With that being said, yeah, everyone on the internet is going awry with all sorts of stuff. I guess the best way to counter it is to just be honest and lean into the truth. That's the only way to beat it. You can't really beat it by just acting like everyone's being a kook. Charlie Kirk was a very important person. Charlie Kirk is dead. The text messages, most Republicans didn't believe, and probably a lot of Democrats didn't believe it. The no exit wound seems to be something that a lot of gun experts don't seem to buy. And the missing footage is there's got to be footage of the person on the roof. Most people think that, or at least a large portion. So, answering these questions, or at least providing more context, is the way to do it. And if they don't want to do that, let's just say the surgeon doesn't want to talk and people that in the know don't want to talk, it's their right to not talk. The surgeon who operated on Charlie, he doesn't have to come out and do a news clip, and perhaps he can't even legally do that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, you got to understand that people are going to ask some sort of questions. There's no way that people are just going to stop caring about Charlie and just lean into tributes. Just tribute Charlie and watch Trump and JD Vance talk about him on television. Okay, sure. But that doesn't, I think personally, the Tyler Robinson court case should be as televised as the O.J. Simpson court case and the Amber Heard court case. And I think it should be, I think every journalist has a right to look into it, and every journalist has a duty to do journalism. Not to believe the stupidest theory you read on Twitter, not to believe everything that Candace says or whoever says. And I'm not disrespecting Candace right now. I'm just being honest. That's not what I'm saying every journalist has to do. They don't have to agree with what Candace is doing, but they have to do something, right? Shouldn't they do something? Some sort of journalism or some sort of value, not just shutting down stuff. There's got to be more to do. And two options: either you think the government's going to do it, then you can be patient, or you think the government's not going to do it, then somebody in the news has to do it. Steven Crowder broke the news before any news person I did on the one thing. It's how did he get that news? How did he break a story? I guess somebody talked to him in the ATF and he broke it before a lot of media. Is Crowder a bad person for breaking that story? Should he just shut up and leave it to New York Post? I don't know. He wanted to break that story and he did. I can't tell you what he should or shouldn't have done, but why should he do that, but no one else should do anything else? It doesn't make sense to me. And it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. So is what it is. But just judging from the comments on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, not just in my own section, but just reading the sections of people in Charlie's camp, it seems like most people are not buying the official narrative. And then it becomes this game of then they just jump to one theory. And then they're either you believe this or this, either you vote for Democrats or you're Republican, either you're Tucker Carlson or you're Ben Shapiro. It's not always that simple. Yeah, there's different camps of different ideas, but at the same time, it's not if you don't trust everything they're saying, then you necessarily agree with all that. that's like the straw man to just try to act like everyone's being radical or crazy if they don't believe it. Like I want to go deeper. I want to figure out what happened. You know, I want to say this too while I have the inspiration. One of the worst things about the climate change narrative, sorry if this is like a huge shift, but it's a parallel that I thought of. One of the worst things about the climate change narrative and them just saying everything's climate change, every forest fire is climate change, is it provides cover for our sins because then they never get caught or they just say it's climate change. So for example, America and Canada are so cooked. They weren't doing logging. They weren't maintaining their forests, and they have a bunch of crackheads running around. So a lot of the fires that are being started are arson. But when Justin Trudeau or Gavin Newsom goes on television, he doesn't act like there's arson. He'll just be like, it's climate change. So now you're opening anyone to do anything. When you're so intellectually uncurious about an event and you just blame climate change 100% of the time, now anyone can start a fire and you're providing cover for them. It could be a foreign country. It could be a terrorist starting a fire, and Gavin Newsom and Trudeau will go on television and be like, it's just climate change, folks. You're providing cover for arsons. I'm not saying it's always an arson, but I think a lot of the time it is. It's the same thing with this. When you say there's no questions asked, you're just providing cover for anyone. How do you know? Just like they're going after left-wing organizations now, you could talk about what some people are talking about on X and accuse them, oh, you're saying it's this country or that. What if it was a left-wing organization? I'm not saying it was, but like, if you just like, oh, just don't look into it, just believe everything the Fed's saying, like you think he just for sure worked alone? If he worked with accomplices, don't you want to know who it was or why they did it? Or no, is everyone just supposed to say, no, I think it's completely over? Like, how do you know? How do you know? Just like you're saying they don't know, also you don't know. So, a lot of people are not going to forget about Charlie. And a lot of people rightfully want to ask more questions. And this is all I'll say, and then I'm really going to end it. I do understand that online there are certain people that are making grandiose statements of who they think did it with not enough proof to be right about it. Personally, I don't agree with those people because I try to speak in definites, not in hypotheticals, not in like, well, if it's this or that. I like to be direct, and the truth will filter its way out. I don't need to make statements I can't prove. People doing that on any side, I'm not buying it. I don't care if it's Israel. I don't care if it's the left wing. I don't care if it's that. I'm not buying anyone that is 100% confident that it's this or that, and you can't question anything. I'm not buying it. With that being said, I'm listening to what Tucker's saying, and then I'm listening to what people are saying about what he's saying. I'm listening to what Megyn Kelly's saying and Candace Owens are saying, and then I'm listening to what everyone's saying about what they're saying. And to be honest, what people are saying about what they're saying isn't what they're saying. It's the same as a Trump speech. What Democrats said about what they're saying wasn't what he was saying. So I've listened to what Tucker said recently, and he's not saying what everyone's saying he's saying. That's not what he's saying. You could say he's saying that, but it comes across really like defensive and just inaccurate. Yes, there are people on Twitter saying that. There are people making videos saying that. But when I listen to what people are saying Candace is saying, and then I listen to Candace, it's not the same. And it's like same with Tucker and Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk, as I pointed out, they had a conversation about how the pro-Israel side was calling them Hamas, anti-Semites, and enemies because they were trying to say that they were losing a lot of the youth. And now Mark Levin is on Twitter freaking out when Megyn Kelly's saying it now. He's freaking out. She's pro-Israel. She's just trying to say that a lot of the youth is not. And she's not wrong. Like, that's accurate. If you want to fix it, you have to address it and then maybe provide something there that convinces people. But just screaming at people talking about it all the time isn't fixing it. And that's what I find. It's like I haven't found anyone talking about Candace or Tucker or Megyn that matches what they're saying. It just seems almost like a misdirect of like, well, if he's saying that, then he must be saying that. If you're saying this, then you must be saying that. Says you. It's like when I post something and people say, oh, well, if you're saying that, then you must mean that. I posted about, the Frank Turek guy where he's explaining that like people thought he was doing hand signals and stuff, and he's Charlie's friend and he's an author. And I don't think he did anything, and I think he's being honest. But what I will say, and what I was telling people, like when I first saw him, I thought he was Charlie's bodyguard because he looked like a bodyguard and he did look like he was sending some sort of signal. I'm not saying he was. He was probably just fidgeting. As he said in his interview, why would I have to send a signal? It wouldn't make any sense. I don't disagree with him. I think he's innocent. I don't think people should accuse him. But what I'm saying is it did to me look almost like a baseball signal. It doesn't mean it was. That's just what it looked like in a video. If I was in a video doing that, I would get why people thought that too, even if it wasn't true. It's hard for me to say stuff like that because then people jump in my comments. They go, "You think he was doing this and that?" No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying I get why people were thinking that because it kind of looked that way. But yeah, I agree. It wouldn't make sense to do that. And you wouldn't want to stand right next to Charlie. That wouldn't be the smartest place. Like, I don't think he did anything, but it's like, I can't say anything without someone saying that. I think Charlie was killed, but I don't like, I have to believe his bone density was the Man of Steel. He's Superman. It's possible that Charlie's the healthiest guy in the world. And, you know, I like all of these things are possible, but it, like, I don't know. There's no nuance whatsoever. I either got to be this person or that person. If I question everything, I said this, even though I never said it. Tucker said this, even though he never said that. Candace said this. When I watched her video, she didn't say that. It's like the people that are telling me what to believe, they're not giving me anything to believe. And I'm sure there's a lot of people like that where I'm not going to sit and pretend like I know exactly what happened. I don't. But I'm just like millions of people, I'm interested in trying to figure it out and use the information given to figure it out, not be told by other people what other people are saying. And there's always going to be someone online that says something came from the left, it came from the right, came from the front, came from the back. Yeah, everyone's saying everything. I don't believe what everyone's saying. I don't believe every theory, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I believe the text messages. I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't think there's footage. I think there's footage of the shooter. Not given, but am I wrong about that? This is one thing that barely anyone's saying. Like, where's the footage of him in the act? Where's the footage of the rooftop at that time? You're telling me no one got it? Not a single person. Well, normally they were all standing in the front. No, they weren't. Look at the clip of him walking in. When he walked in the venue, his friend was filming him. And as soon as he was throwing hats and walking out, literally both rooftops were right there in the background. And there were hundreds of people standing there. He's sitting here. Everybody's facing him. And then there's hundreds of people from the backside that's just where they could get. And he had dozens of friends there. You're telling me not a single one was filming from behind? Anytime I do a concert, I have my friends stand behind me and film it from the back because I want to see with the crowd. You're telling me of the dozens of friends he had there and the hundreds of people he had standing in the back, not a single one of them caught literally the main thing in the background, which is that roof? No one? I don't believe that. I'm not a bad person. I'm not disrespecting Charlie. I'm never going to put words in Charlie's mouth. In fact, I want Charlie to speak for himself. But now everybody's fighting over his legacy. It's like, I don't know. Would everyone want, like, if something happened to Trump or someone else, would Charlie just want everyone to now ask questions about it? I have no idea because he's not alive to speak for himself. But the people that are saying he would have wanted, like, he would have wanted people to do this and that, he's not alive to tell us. And, just like other people are stating things for him, if they're right, then they're right. If they're wrong, then yeah, it's disrespectful. But, can we get to the right and wrong without telling everyone to just stop asking questions? Because that doesn't make any sense to me, especially coming from the crowd that didn't ask questions during COVID and slandered everybody asking questions and told Black people they should get the vaccine and they're bad for not getting the vaccine and listening to Farrakhan. These are not the people that are going to sit and tell me you need to believe the narrative. It's like, well, you believed the narrative for 3 years or pretended to believe the narrative for 3 years. And it was one of your biggest journalistic mistakes. And I didn't make that journalistic mistake. And I'm not going to make a mistake during this situation too, because I'm not going to say more than I know. And I'm not going to make claims. But just like I would say, and I'll really end because I know I've been like saying I'll end for a while. I don't trust anybody with the information given that is 100% confident or 100% confident that someone else isn't confident. That's just how I feel. Anyone saying it's 100% not that, and anybody saying that's bad, yeah, I don't believe that. And then also the people that are saying I'm 100% sure it is that, or I'm 100% sure it is that, I also don't trust them. And I'm not just saying that. I don't trust anyone coming out and saying I'm 100% sure it's this, and I'm 100% sure it's this. No, you're not. You're not. You're not sure. So why are you saying you're sure on any of the sides? Because you're not. And if you're sure that they're not sure, how are you so sure? Or I guess you can know that they're not 100% truthful, and you might want to call them out for saying they are. Understandable. But like, now it comes to the question of what really happened. How do you know? How do you know that what, like, everybody's just playing this game, and that's the internet. It's filled with like narcissists and sociopaths who just want to be, want to be the person who says something. Okay, that's fine. This is what I'm saying. This is what I think. I'll be patient. Appreciate y'all. God bless you. God bless your family. Real quick before I leave, I have these hats are coming in. I bought this like weeks ago, and I'm not trying to sell them now because just bad timing. It was weird. But if you know these hats and you've wanted them for years, a lot of my audience has been waiting for them for 2 years. I'm going to post them next week in my channels. If you want the first dibs on them, go to my Facebook channel or my Instagram channel. That's the best place you can do to sign up. But like I said, given the current events and everything that's happened, I was supposed to sell them like last week and start selling them, but I don't know. It just feels like a weird time, and I don't want to do that. And also, I want to do, like, before I just start selling stuff, I want to provide value. Like, I have videos that I want to make, and I want people to know that I'm just here actually doing stuff and not just like using it to hawk hats. So I put that on halt for like 2 weeks now. I was supposed to sell them last week, but yeah, if you want, once again, there's only a couple hundred of each. So, and they've been out for 2 years. So the place that I'm going to send them to on Tuesday first, or perhaps Monday, is going to be my Facebook channel and my Instagram channel. I want to give them a 3-4 hour head start because I appreciate people signing up there. It's one of the places that gives power back to us and allows us to have almost like a built-in email list. So check that out if you want it. Appreciate y'all. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Have a good day. Stay safe, stay blessed. And yeah, think for yourself. I mean, God gave you a brain. God gave you an individual body and thoughts. Listen to other people, but you don't have to, you don't have to become them. You can gain information and value from everywhere and be yourself. That's